Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier, and as you can see on the screen, I am joined by my good friend and co-host, John Rastusha. We are both here. By the way, everyone, say hello to, not just say hello to John, say happy birthday, John. Happy birthday, John.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Hey, you gotta enjoy them while you got them, you know?
I get them every year.
Well, that's always a good thing. And so I just want everyone to know we're always happy to have John. And, you know, it's really a nice thing that John is joining us for his birthday. He's having this conversation. And so I want everyone to be able to jump in and talk with us and, you know, make it worthwhile for John to be here on his birthday, speaking with us, telling us all the great things that are going on. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today. We've been going through this for a couple of hours, actually throughout the week, getting everything ready for today. We have a guest that's going to be calling in at about 3 o'clock, so that'll be wonderful, and we're looking forward to that. But there's just so much that we can talk about today.
That is true.
Before I get started with that, because there's so much there, John, I want to take a second as I'm going to get everything set up. I wanted to start off with talking about, here it goes. Did you hear about David Dorn? You know who David Dorn is, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And for people who don't know, on the screen, you can see it right now. David Dorn was one of the people killed during the 2020 riots by BLM across this nation. It was a really sad thing because the man, literally David Dorn, a former captain of police in St. Louis, went to his friend's store during the riot of the BLM riots. When they broke into the man's store and and they broke into the store and they were just trying to loot the place. And he was just there to try and protect the property. And they shot him dead.
Yeah.
And suddenly the story went away. The major news media said, hey, we don't want to talk about the BLM riots and the people who died, over 36 people. That includes an 8-year-old child in Atlanta. That includes a 16-year-old child in Seattle at the Chaz. That also included Jessica Dottie Whitaker, a 23-year-old mother, and David Dorn. Innocent individuals who did nothing wrong. Good people. And I see that, you know, we now know that in one of the few cases coming out of 2020 that someone has actually been punished for the rampant violence that they did, and the news media don't care.
Yeah.
This isn't a story. It's not even a side story. I mean, I found the story out of KMOV. That's a local news station. But nationally, no news about David Dorn. No news about his killer being brought to justice. It says something, don't you think?
Yeah, I only saw it. I think it was maybe Breitbart, maybe Drudge. Only saw it on one site and nothing else.
Yeah, the national news media just does not care.
Yeah.
That Stephen Cannon decided to use the BLM riots to enrich himself and to kill another human being. And we see this consistently all over the place. By the way, Jan has said happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you, Jan.
And she's also happy to hear that some kind of justice has finally started to come out of this. After thousands of people in New York State, over 6,000 people had charges dropped for rioting, for destruction of property, endangering people's lives, intimidation. You know, whatever happened to law and justice in this nation?
Yeah, the long-term consequences, too, I don't think are being talked about at all. Specifically, where I used to live in Arizona, Phoenix, about 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes away was Scottsdale Mall.
Right.
And that was one of the places targeted specifically in the riots. A lot of those businesses are terrified. You talk to those business owners, the answer is, I don't want to get political. I don't want that to ever happen again.
See, and that's how they silence us. That's how
Yeah.
the big win that we see coming from the left isn't that, they achieve something. In fact, these riots, they never were about achieving anything. It was about intimidation. You're going to back down. You're going to do what we say. Obey, or else.
And it worked, yeah. Here's the thing, too. Specifically when they were going on, the argument that I heard from a lot of progressives, a lot of far left individuals, was, well, they're major corporations. No one's, the only thing that's getting hurt is their bottom line. The communities are going to get hurt. Do you think that a corporation wants to keep their business in that area if that's going to happen, if they're getting repeatedly stolen from, vandalized? They're going to pull out.
Well, they say it's only affecting the big companies like CVS. Well, there's 17 CVS stores in San Francisco, as an example. No,
Yeah.
excuse me, 19. They're all gone.
Yeah.
So everyone in the community, you say, well, they're a big corporation. They can just deal with it. What about the people who live in that community that can no longer go to the store, can't buy any of the goods? Now they have to travel, a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles? God knows how far.
Yeah, in San Francisco especially, yeah.
Yeah, and there's no real transportation there, no really functional public transportation. How far do these people have to go? So you're not just talking about, but there were private businesses, there were private homes. Look at Minneapolis, $2 billion worth of damage. And, well, that's all insurance. Yeah, but it's also people's apartments, people's houses, small businesses, bar owners. I mean, they're gone.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Yeah. And they're not coming back. Why would you? If I'm a corporation and I know that my store's repeatedly going to get stolen from and we're losing profits at that location, I'm just going to leave.
Which I can't blame people for. I mean,
No.
it's a natural thing to do, is say, oh, I'm not going to go back into that area. I know Jan is mentioning that George Soros, has been backing a lot of DAs across the nation. Many of them very progressive, like we've seen in California, like we've seen in New York, especially in New York City.
Yeah.
And that they have been responsible for releasing so many criminals. In fact, it's one of the DAs, I believe the Manhattan DA, who tried to charge the bodega, the guy who defended himself in a bodega. Initially, that DA was going to charge him for saving his own life.
Yeah. Well, progressives think, this is actually a conversation I had with a progressive. They don't think that you should be able to defend your property. You should not use force to defend your property.
And do they say why?
A life does not equal property, is what they argue.
So not having somewhere to live, to raise my kids and my family, to be able to be safe, to protect myself from the winter or the summer, somewhere to prepare my business and live my life, that's not important to them.
Not important to no. I've never been more stunned and shocked that you can't use force, deadly force, to defend your private property, your goods, your anything. You can't do it. Nope.
That doesn't make any sense.
This is what young, progressive, liberal Democrats believe because, and I think part of it is because they haven't, that they have so much, they don't have to work for anything. They're so privileged, Mike. They don't understand the idea of how important some of these necessities are for people.
Well, I know that they've been taught in their schools that, you should own nothing and be happy. That everything will just be provided to you.
Yeah.
Where's this stuff being provided from? And no, you just can't have everything. You can't just live in my house because you just want to. I'm sorry, that's not how it works.
No.
Or at least I can't see how they could say that. So it's very upsetting to me that we've allowed so many, and we've taught a generation, you can get away with anything as long as you have a riot, as long as you scream, and as long as you say, well, race card. It's the race card. It's the feminist card. It's an ist. It's a phobe. You can't touch me. I can break any. You can't have a government if the rules do not apply to everyone equally. Or am I wrong?
I don't understand it. It's this upper class white liberal mentality that a lot of people have. I think that's the problem.
It is insane. I don't understand this. It is not functional. It doesn't work for a nation.
No.
And yet, this is something that they want to push out there.
Yeah.
And it drives me nuts. And we're seeing this worldwide. And in particular, we're seeing how this is affecting all of us. By the way, I do want to say again, hello, Jan, who's with us. But also, I should say hello, Michael. Mike Bowie's the second one speaking with us today. He mentions that the bodega owner was physically assaulted at the time. Yeah, that's exactly it. He's defending his life and his property from someone who literally had no reason to come in and he's upset about a bag of chips.
Yeah, liberals are like, oh, they're going to burn down your house. We'll just let them do it. It's not worth it to, try to fight the guy off.
Yeah.
That's not worth it.
And she's wondering what state it was that said that they're not going to charge people for trespassing or breaking and entering and thefting people's homes. Well, there's only 2 states that you can really guess that with. There's only 2 progressive capitals in the United States. On the East Coast, it's New York State. West Coast, it's California. Guess what? It's California. That's the answer, Jan.
Yeah.
California, that's why you can steal up to $1,000 worth of goods and they won't say a word to you. And yet, because if you're black, well, they'll let you commit crimes because that's justice. Somehow that's justice. To be able to break the law because of the color of your skin, that's justice. Please, I dare any progressive that's watching the show, come on and explain to us why someone gets to break the law because of the color of their skin. Tell me how that is justice. Please. Because they never explain that. They just say, well, it's justice. And it's social justice. Just stop right there. You can't ask another question. No, I need to ask you another question. How is that just? Doesn't make any sense. And we're exporting these ideas around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we see our allies in France. They're fighting against it. Macron has already said that he will not allow critical race theory to be taught in France. In Germany, it's been rejected. In England, they are fighting tooth and nail against that. And one of my favorite people, Kemi Badenoch, she's been one of the biggest proponents to fight against the United States critical race theory ideology. Do you know who Kemi is?
I don't actually.
Okay. So I have her on the screen right now. Kemi Badenoch, she's a candidate. She's basically the equivalent of a congresswoman
Right.
that we would have.
Is she in the UK?
In the UK.
Right. Now I recognize the name.
She's originally from Nigeria.
Okay.
And she and her family emigrated into and became citizens of England. Fair enough. She's well educated, an intelligent woman. If she were in the United States, she would be a Republican conservative, probably about the same as myself.
Yeah.
Okay. And we know that Boris Johnson's gone.
Yeah.
She was running for prime minister. They kicked her out. Do you know why?
The Tories are really weird. Because she was too conservative for the Tories?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was not progressive enough. And so because she wasn't progressive enough, they decided to say, hey, we need to get her out.
Yeah. Well, the modern UK Conservative Party, aka the Tories, that's the nickname for them, are essentially, at this point, centrist Democrats.
But that terrifies me.
Yeah.
You know? It's really terrifying that we are seeing that not only are we destroying our nation, we are exporting these bad ideas, this insanity, to another nation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at what happened in Berlin this week. I was talking to you about this a little earlier. What happened in Berlin with the protest? So there was a protest it was an LGBTQA plus 2 XYZ, I don't know, protest in Berlin to increase the number of arms sent to the Ukraine so the Ukraine can have a pride parade.
Yeah. Let's think about that for a second.
Yes.
So they don't want to help the people of Ukraine because they're being attacked by Russia. They don't want to help a small nation defend itself from a large nation. They don't want to help people who are millions of refugees because they're refugees. No, they have an agenda. The important thing is that you recognize LGBTQAI plus whatever, because there's a war going on. And the most important thing in a war is to have a parade to say I'm gay or trans or whatever.
Yeah.
Are they serious?
Yeah, this is serious. And you know what country they're strangely quiet about? Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yeah, they won't talk about that.
They won't talk about any Middle Eastern country. Yeah, no. God forbid. We have to talk about Ukraine because we have to give them millions more dollars, for this war.
We have to give them the money. We have to protect them. Well, it's like we had to give all the money to Afghanistan because they were going to take care of women. Because America is so oppressive that the women who were then able to go to schools, women who were able to drive cars, women who were able to have jobs and hold positions in the government, while America was in Afghanistan, whether you like the war or not, doesn't matter. That's what we did in Afghanistan, and girls were able to learn, like reading, writing, everything, basic stuff that in America no one even thinks about. And we were such evil people that we had to run away at full steam and pushed Biden to do exactly that, run away. And what happened as a result? Women can't drive cars, they can't go to school, they can't read or write, they can't hold a job, they're definitely not part of the government, and no one talks about it anymore.
Yeah.
Because, feminism. We're such a supporter of feminism, we won't talk about the fact that we killed the feminism that we had created in Afghanistan. Won't talk about it anymore because it's a complete failure.
You know what's really funny to me about this whole thing? We have progressives protesting for contracts to the military-industrial complex, which they claim to hate, dropping bombs so they can have a pride parade.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. This is where we're at. The self-referee, it has gone full circle. I've said it before. The simulation has broken. Everything has become a parody of itself. This is too funny to me. This is just a parody.
Yeah, it's insane. By the way, folks, if you're wondering, you too can, just like you're seeing Jan and you've seen Mike speak about it, you can send us a text, a chat on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, DLive to let us know what you think. You don't have to agree with us. You can tell us you think we're absolutely wrong. In fact, I'd love to hear from people who think we're wrong.
Oh, please tell me why
just tell
supporting the military-industrial complex is helping the LGBTQ agenda.
You'll be treated with respect. As long as you are respectful in making your argument, we will hear you out, hear every word that you say. We are more than fair about that. If you want, you can even call into the show at 607-242-1582. Mind you, again, we're expecting a call at 3 o'clock from a guest, a special guest, talking about something that just happened in the news, something that's affecting everyone in this nation. But before and after that, please call in. We're happy to hear your voices. I want to go to, so I just wanted to bring up that, and for all our fans in the United Kingdom, we have many, we're sorry that you lost Kemi Badenoch. I thought she was great, and I really wish that she had been able to make it. And I think that having a rhino, essentially a rhino in the United Kingdom, hurts the United States. See, at least when we had Boris Johnson, he was right. When Biden failed in negotiations with Russia and Ukraine, Boris Johnson jumped right in there. He tried to fix it. Then came Macron, then came everyone else, leading to Brazil, and now we have Turkey, all trying to make negotiations there because the United States failed, utterly, absolutely failed. But now we're going to have this guy Rishi out of the United Kingdom, who is a rhino. He's a progressive, essentially. And that's not going to help because that's just reinforcing the same bad logic, the bad policy that's coming out of the United States. We're going to have it doubled up. That's going to hurt Europe, just like it's hurting the United States right now.
Yeah, there's nothing. The Tories have been going this way for a while too. It's absolutely insane. I don't think there's a single good party at this point in the United Kingdom for any actual conservatives out there.
Not when they have a choice of Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss.
Yeah.
And, when I say these things, it affects global peace. the more progressive the world becomes, the more, or I should say, the more progressive the United States becomes, and the more that we push progressive ideas, socialist ideology around to the rest of the world, the less stable the world becomes, and the more we see violence everywhere. Or am I wrong?
No, you're correct. You are correct. This is where we're going. This is. I have no other words. This is where they want to go, and this is what they want to push onto us.
And Jan is right. There are many people in the LGBTQ community who are saying they don't want to go down this road, that this isn't the right idea, that trying to get a parade in the middle of a war zone isn't necessarily the most important thing that you could do.
No.
And it's not on the criteria of why you're having a war and what needs to happen. Having a parade isn't on the list.
Yeah. This is like, this always reminds me of when on Twitter all those companies changed their photo to the rainbow flags.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Except for the Middle East countries.
Yeah, because they don't care.
Yeah. So it'll be like a company like CVS of America, and then it'll get to the profile for CVS of the Middle East or whatever company, and it'll just be the normal logo.
Of course.
Yeah. Of course. It's so it's just so surface level.
Yeah, it's meaningless. It's pandering.
Yeah.
It's pandering.
That's exactly what it is.
That is the whole thing about woke culture and how it's affecting our politics. Oh, look, we've got a flag. Buy our stuff.
Yeah.
But what if you have a nation there that's actively committing, in Africa we have actual slavery going on. Hell, we've got that coming in from South America where we have all the people that are all the sex slaves that are being pushed into America by the drug gangs across our open southern border.
Yeah. It's not like it's not commonplace that you're seeing so many terrible things at the border. I lived in Arizona for a year and a half. That's it. And I saw a lot of terrible things. It's crazy to me that this is the number one priority we need to prioritize. But
yeah, but we need a parade in the Ukraine.
Oh, 100%. That's going to fix everything. That's going to really show Russia.
And that's the thing I have to wonder. It's like, what, no one ever questions, what if we do what the progressives actually want? If we actually gave them what they want, if we actually had a parade in the middle of, I think it's Mariupol,
yes,
which is in the Ukraine, the southern, which is currently being bombed.
Yeah.
And we had that, so they decided, hey, we're going to have this parade. Bombs are dropping on our heads. Russia's still at the gate, and then what? Like, the Russians don't care. They'll just kill you. They don't care.
Do you think the Ukrainians care either?
No.
Yeah. I mean,
you know what? I wouldn't care. I've got Russia at the gates with the tanks, with their rockets, with their guns. I don't care what sex, gender. I don't care if you think you're a toaster. I don't care. I'm busy. I got other issues to worry about.
Yeah. And this is, by the way, I mean, the Ukraine with Zelensky is not... we talked about this, I think, 2-3 weeks ago, how he dissolved all...
Yeah, he got rid of his government.
Yeah, he got rid of his government and consolidated power.
He's become a dictator.
Yes, so the LGBTQ community is supporting a dictator getting more arms in order to have an LGBTQ parade.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like the LGBTQ and progressive movement supported the Taliban by forcing the United States out in a rush without a plan and abandoned thousands, we now know, thousands of Americans are in Afghanistan to this day. It's the biggest lie of the Biden-Harris administration. It's the biggest secret that the news media will not tell the American public and that we have never stopped talking about since September 1st when he walked away and just said, well, those Americans don't count. And to this day, it's still happening. And the Middle East is getting worse and worse. Did you hear about, there was John Bolton. You know who he is, right?
Of course I know.
Okay. For people who don't know, John Bolton used to be with represented the United States at the UN. He's a recognized international politician, spokesman for the United States. And he is terrified about the Iran nuclear deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's going on with that right now, right?
Yes. Somewhat, yes.
Okay, Biden is still trying to get back Obama's Iran nuclear deal. We've talked about this on this channel many times. This is literally, Biden is literally bending over backwards trying to fund global terrorism. And when I say that, it's not hyperbole. It's exactly what we did in 2016, according to John Kerry. The United States made the Iran nuclear deal. Iran promised that they won't make a nuclear bomb right away, but they will make an ICBM to be able to drop a nuclear bomb or a chemical weapon anywhere in America. They promised that they still want to kill America. Mm-hmm. And for that, Obama gave them billions of dollars.
Yep.
And global terror around the world went up. Terrorism against the United States and our allies increased. Straight. And John Kerry, then Secretary of the United States, said, yep, that's true. That's what the United States did. We're funding global terror. He admitted it on NBC News, January of 2016.
Well,
you can
Mike,
look it up.
To be fair, he had bigger concerns. Air conditioning.
I know. His big concern, it's not important to worry about whether or not Iran is going to follow through with their 5 decades long promise of destroying the United States. That's not important because we have to worry about whether or not you have your air conditioner on in the middle of the summer during a summer heat wave.
Yes.
Because that's a problem.
That's going to destroy us all.
You got to turn off those air conditioners. Doesn't matter if old people die or not. Doesn't matter if we're having blackouts. Doesn't matter. You just got to turn off that air conditioner because that might one day, 100, maybe 200 years from now, might kill the world. Even though every single prediction about climate change has been proven false. All of them. Mm-hmm. Not one. Since the 1950s, global famine, global winter, global warming, you name it, every single prediction of climate change has been proven wrong. But this time we have to believe it because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And now, and Jan is right, now they're telling people, and the answer is, turn off your air conditioner, get rid of your car, buy an electric car, which costs more than what the average person in America makes in a year. Literally, they want you to buy a car that costs more than what you will make this year.
Yes.
And they want you to buy that car, but you can't plug it in because if you plug it in, the electric grid will fall apart and there'll be blackouts.
Yes. Oh, you forgot to also say stop eating meat, start eating bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Live in a pod. You know, what I said last week.
This stuff is crazy.
It is.
And meanwhile, while this is all happening, get ready, folks. Here's some news. It just came out today. You might have just heard about this. I know you will be shocked. You ready, John?
Oh, yeah.
China is getting militarized. They're getting aggressive.
I've never heard of that before.
General Mark Milley has now come out and mentioned today, July 24th, at 9:53 a.m., China has become significantly more aggressive, according to the trader, General Mark Milley. He says, quote, "The message is the Chinese military in the air and at sea have become significantly more and noticeably more aggressive in this particular region." That's the Southeast Asia. You know, threatening to take over Taiwan, having a new submarine that can fire a nuclear torpedo, demanding that they have more concessions from Japan and the rest of the world, and telling America to shut up and to sit down because they're in charge. General Milley has just figured that out.
Well, Mike, I mean, does this move China up on the tier list of things we need to worry about? Because I know number one is obviously going to be critical race theory taught in our military. So is this number 2 or is this number 3?
I don't know.
Number 2 would probably be for him climate change. So where does this rank up for Milley now? That's my question. Are we still prioritizing
I
critical
don't know
race theory?
what he's doing. Millie drives me nuts. Sorry, I'm just making sure our phone is set because we may be getting a call any minute. Millie, he's busy trying to give away our secrets to the world.
That is true. Same with Biden. Remember when Biden revealed the CIA base?
Yeah.
That we denied existed for how long and then just had a photo of it?
Because
his interns couldn't crop anything.
It just shows us the failure at every level. Millie is more worried about whether or not people are getting called the right names, that they have the right pronouns. He's worried about white supremacy in the military, which doesn't exist. No one has any proof of it. There is no evidence of it. And he's busy trying to contact China and tell them all of our secrets. He's talking to them directly, telling China how much of a buddy he is to them. Maybe if he had a shred of doubt, a shred of, patriotism, he'd say, hey, maybe China's getting a little bit, when they're threatening the United States and they're insulting the United States under Joe Biden, when they're threatening our allies in Taiwan, maybe that's a hint that they're getting aggressive.
Yeah. Could be. I don't know. This is the world we're living in.
Hey, John Cordisco has joined us. By the way, Klaus has been with us as well, and I see comments from both, and I thank you guys. Yes, Klaus, you're right. There are too many groups in America that are asking for special rights. Everyone gets special rights. If you're tall, if you're short, if you're fat, if you're skinny. Seriously, if you're fat, there are special interest groups for fat people. If you happen to be whatever color, whatever sex, whatever gender, whatever, you want to be a transhuman, in other words, you want to be a toaster, there is a group that is fighting in the Progressive Democratic Party trying to make sure you're going to get your rights.
And
That's crazy.
It's crazy what they're also doing in the schools and stuff. I had a friend from New Jersey tell me that someone in her sister's school was allowed to crawl on the ground on all fours like a dog, and they had to respect that. In a middle school. This is insane that this is the number one priority right now for so many different places and institutions. It's nuts. I just don't understand it.
Neither do I. I don't get it at all.
Would you let your middle schooler, if you had a child, Mike, would you let your middle schooler crawl around on all fours in the school?
No.
Asked to be called a dog?
No. By the way, we've got a call coming in. This is our 3 o'clock call, and I want to be happy. Are you there on the line, caller?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay. Let me put this in context for everybody. Just so you know, and we were expecting the call, Lee Zeldin got attacked. It was an assassination attempt, okay? And I want to show everyone just a very short clip. Please bear with me here so you can see this and get in context. I want you to understand what's going on here. So, here we go, and...
They're feeling safer there.
Yep, definitely.
They're living life freer in these other states. You're still here. And this is our last stand for New York. And there's only one option.
What is he doing? Why did they let him get up there?
Okay, so everyone has just seen the attack itself. And I stopped it right there just as Lee Zeldin is protecting himself. That video that you saw, which we have seen on Fox News, that has been on ABC News, that is coming from on YouTube. It's Freedom Fox. Her name is Lindsay, and she is with us now. How are you, Lindsay?
Hi, Michael. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I also have in the studio with me John Rastusha, and we wanted to take a moment to speak with you because you were there. You took the video that has across the nation been seen by millions, tens of millions of people. And am I right when I say this is an assassination attempt?
Yes, I mean, it appears that way, right? I mean, we'll have to see how it all, kind of comes out in the wash with the legal process, the judicial process and so forth. But I mean, what else can you surmise when you watch that video? Then, yeah, a person who was obviously very inebriated. I mean, you can only speculate that perhaps suffering from some sort of a PTSD or what have you. And he definitely, I mean, it was an interesting weapon of choice, that's for sure. That was a bit odd as well. It almost looked like a little back to school item that you would buy, your elementary student.
Mhm.
It literally had cat ears, but it did have, it definitely had, what do you call it? It definitely had blades coming out of it for sure. So he absolutely could have done some serious damage. Who knows exactly what his intention was, if he was going for the neck, if he was going for just stabbing over and over, and who knows. But yeah, absolutely. I think at this point, you can absolutely speculate that this was definitely an assassination attempt for sure.
I think so. When the guy walks up and makes a jab at the throat of a sitting congressman and a candidate for governor, yeah, whether he does it slow or fast, thank God he did it slow. Thank God he was inebriated. Otherwise, that would have been straight into the throat of Lee Zeldin. So that,
Right, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think you're right. I think because he was so inebriated, that is what slowed down. I mean, that's what happens. It affects your motor coordination, right? So
thank
I think
God.
yeah, thank God, absolutely. And I know that there has been talk that perhaps he was simply reaching for Lee's microphone. That perhaps he
Oh,
wanted to say a few words on
oh,
behalf of whomever, veterans everywhere.
That's not on your
Um,
video. That's not what I'm seeing.
yeah.
Your video is
exactly.
very clear on this. It's not a
Right.
question.
Right. Yes, definitely. But that's the other conspiracy or rumor that's going around, that perhaps it was all innocent. Maybe perhaps he was jumping up to give him a high five or a hug, and he was going to simply take the mic away from him and make some sort of a statement. Yeah, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, no, that's not. And he has his hand cocked and he's in a fist. No, that's not friendly or conversational in any way, unless we're redefining what it is to have a conversation. Hey, let me punch you in the throat. That's a conversation.
Right.
Maybe it's a new progressive thing. Lindsay, let me ask you this, because a lot of people don't get the opportunity to hear from someone who is actually on the scene. What was the event? What was the environment before we saw the attack on Lee Zeldin?
Oh, everyone was in great spirits. It was a beautiful summer evening. It was at the local VFW. So sure, there were libations being served. Absolutely. That's part of the culture of a VFW after all, right?
Yes,
Cheap drinks and heavy pours.
always a good thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was, it's, there's still a bit of a divide. Those who supported Andrew are still extremely disappointed that he did not receive the nomination. So part of the crowd was there to get a better feel for him, to give him a chance, and also to determine, basically his policies and what he's about. Just trying to get a better feel for him as a candidate in general, as well as holding him accountable as well, right? So that was one half. The other half was there because there aren't Lee Zeldin supporters, and we're really excited to see him. And Andrew, of course, as you know, was supposed to be there that night. So again, we all have. I am a Giuliani supporter, and so I was definitely there just to say hello to a friend, right? To give him a big
Mhm.
hug, tell him how disappointed we were. But I was also there to support, throw my support behind Lee Zeldin because he's the only chance we have, right?
Mhm.
And to hear him out and give him a chance to convey to the audience his vision for where he sees his candidacy going, where once he's elected, what he's going to do, and so forth. So, at any rate, there was two sides there, but everyone came together, very united, excited. There was a great energy in the air. Everyone, of course, gathering as like-minded individuals. sharing similar viewpoints. It was just, yeah, it was a really great, there was a really great energy. And I can't emphasize that enough. So it was shocking when that happened, and my footage didn't capture it, but I saw it. So this is just my eyewitness observation. But
Mhm.
he when he got up onto the stage, these stages, by the way, are truck trailers.
Right.
We use them a lot in our rallies. I'm a lead organizer for the People's Convoy New York. And so when
Mhm.
we organize our rallies, we don't go out and rent stages. We don't have money for that. So we use the back of trucks or truck trailers. And so that was the case here. And so there was there was a ramp, and it had slats. And he got as he was attempting to get up onto the stage, he actually got his foot jammed a little bit, and he was
Mhm.
stumbling. And so someone actually helped him up, believe it or not. But again, only because here's someone who kind of fit the bill of the average person in the crowd, or perhaps the average person who goes to the VFW
Okay.
quite often, right? He had a veteran's hat on. And so at any rate, it was very unsuspecting, right? It wasn't like he was all in black and represented someone, that maybe for one of those organizations that shall not be named. You know what I mean? It wasn't
Yeah.
an adversary, right? It was someone in plain clothes who looked like the average Joe, seemed to be one of us. So I believe that's why he was helped up, excuse me. And then once he was helped up, yes, he was stumbling. You could tell he was definitely inebriated. But I really truly thought that perhaps it was just someone who was really excited to see and finally meet their candidate of choice. And so I literally thought that perhaps he was lunging to like give him a high five or give him a big hug. And instead, of course, he shouted, it escapes me now exactly what he shouted, so I don't have the direct quote.
It's been
But
reported that he said, "You're done."
there you go. Absolutely. So those are the words of someone who means business.
That doesn't sound friendly. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound like I'm going to give you a hug or let me talk about veterans on a microphone. Sounds pretty aggressive to me.
Absolutely. And it was, and we realized that very quickly. It was really disheartening. And of course, the crowd was literally in shock. That's the best way to put it, because again, it was so unsuspecting. We had it really caught us off guard. We are in the more affluent part in the suburbs in Parrington, Fairport area. So that added the other element of feeling even more secure. It wasn't like we were holding this rally, or not me, but it wasn't like the organizers were holding this rally in downtown Rochester, right? Where you would almost expect something like that.
Well, let me ask something, because I know Rochester's a very violent city. It's one of the most violent cities in New York and in the nation. In fact, more violent than Syracuse. Here's a question. Were there a bunch of people? We often hear the claim, and we're hearing it from appointed Governor Hochul and Antonio Delgado, the former congressman who ran away from his district. We've heard from them saying, well, these are violent people, that this is white supremacy, that there's, we got to be afraid of these kind of radical groups. Was there anyone armed with a gun? Was there any kind of racial signatures or anything of that nature at the event?
Absolutely not. In fact, my friend Marcus Williams was right up front in support of both candidates, live streaming away. Was it the most diverse crowd or representative of the diversity in our country? Probably not. I'm not going to lie, but
Well, neither is New York State.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yes, no, absolutely. No, absolutely not. Of course, that is a narrative that the left likes to use in certain situations like that to further their agenda. And so that's quite evident. So when I hear that, I just automatically dismiss it. But absolutely not. No,
Okay.
no racial tension. And certainly if there was anyone armed there, everyone is super educated as to what their rights are in regards to 2A. So if they were doing it legally. I'm fairly certain of, can I be Can I be absolutely certain of that? No, but I know this crowd. I know the majority of the people who are there. Sure, they do obviously are ardent supporters of their two-way rights, but certainly no one there, although albeit disappointed, perhaps, like I said, half the crowd are Giuliani supporters. They were there for him. But no one had any vitriol or any sort of malicious intent towards either candidate.
Now, I did speak with Marcus, and I was able to speak with him. And by the way, for people who don't know, Marcus it's Marcus C. Williams. He's running for the 137th Assembly District in New York. He's a candidate, and we were able to speak with him yesterday, Friday, about that. Let me ask you, we know that Kathy Hochul had sent out just an hour or so beforehand, had sent out a list. Some would call it a target list, an enemies list of where Lee Zeldin was going to be. And now the aftermath of this event, of this call to action by Democrats, a leading Democrat, a governor, has that had an impact in other things that you've seen? You were telling me there's an event today that happened at, is that correct?
There was there was an event.
The Manhattan.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's not the smartest thing she could have done. I mean, it's very interesting timing, of course. What a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
And as one particular organization likes to say, how many coincidences does it take until it's no longer a coincidence? So while you can draw your conclusions from that, it is definitely interesting timing. And I can tell you that we have seen an uptick in opposition. Now, perhaps it's because our organization has grown significantly in the past 4 months or so since we started it, where we're brand new. But people are just, they're relieved to see us at the same time. They're so glad that they finally have an organization or an outlet in which to be able to exercise their First Amendment rights freely without being censored. So I will say that, yes, we are a new organization. So as more and more people find out about this, or find out about us, perhaps that has something to do with it. We're getting more well known amongst the agitator crowd. But yes, yesterday they knew about our rally. Oh gosh, I will say probably even, when did we find out that they knew? And they being Antifa. They found out about, we had a rally in front of Fox News yesterday in Manhattan, right there on Avenue of the Americas. We had been organizing this event for several months and organizing, by the way, jointly with the NYPD. So we had wonderful police presence there. Huge shout out to the NYPD. They were fantastic. And at any rate, we did have agitators show up. And what was interesting is they were there from the beginning. They actually put a call out to their group members, if you will. They created a flyer stating that come join us on July 23rd in front of Fox News for a water balloon fight. So that was interesting. And I'm thinking, I mean, we all knew the forecast, right? We knew it was going to be one of the hottest days of the year, which means in New York, just add another 10, 15 degrees onto that. And I'm thinking to myself, I really don't think that they're going to do us a favor by perhaps only hitting us with water. That maybe we need to be a little cognizant of what else they could be putting in those balloons. But that's an aside. But yes, they did show up yesterday. And what was interesting is, they were there from the beginning, don't get me wrong. They really picked up steam the minute that Andrew Giuliani walked around the corner, because he walked over. I forgot to ask him. He might have taken the train for all I know, or a cab. And he walked around the corner, and immediately they just came out of the woodwork and accosted him. I won't say attacked, because he wasn't physically harmed or what have you, but they just came out of the woodwork in droves and just were relentless and he was our last speaker. So they were relentless for the remainder of the rally. Then they really picked up steam.
Hold on one second. It looks like, and please, if someone is able to, it seems like, I don't know if the broadcast has been frozen or not. and I don't mean to interrupt you. It's okay. It just looks like we were frozen for a second on the stream, and I apologize. I didn't want you to speak.
No,
without
that's
people
okay.
being
I can
heard.
repeat what I said even more concisely.
Yeah. So you were mentioning that once Mr. Giuliani came out, then Antifa jumped forward and they became
Yes.
aggressive. Is that correct?
Yeah, like I said, they were there throughout the entire rally, and it was about a 2-hour rally, and we had a number of well-known people speak, but it was the minute that Giuliani rounded the corner and they spotted him, that's when we really saw how many numbers were there, because yes, there were a few that identified themselves right away and were of course instigating the entire time, but once they saw him, they made a beeline and they just surrounded him and were harassing him for the remainder of the rally, and they really picked up steam and they became even more obnoxious. So you could tell that they were absolutely targeting Giuliani in particular.
Let me ask, was there any news media covering this? Any kind of reporting? Because I didn't notice any reporting about Antifa or the far left, or progressives, however they want to mention it in the news media, that they were out in force trying to silence people, to intimidate the public, to use force, and to coerce people into following their will. I didn't see any news about that.
That's a great question. So I had alerted because, you can imagine after Lee was attacked, I had every mainstream media outlet reach out to me almost right away, as expected. And of course, Fox News did as well. So Fox News, of course, was the most communicative. Is that the best word to use? They were just on me, because I wanted to do a little bit of editing, not editing content out, but you know how it goes.
Yeah, shorten it down so it can make the clip in their
You got
reporting.
it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that being said, I mean, they were just, very nicely, but very, very persistent in getting that cover, getting that footage over to them. And so at any rate, after we had finished the exchange that you go through when you're submitting footage to a mainstream media outlet, I then said, hey guys, by the way, this is a crazy coincidence, but we're actually rallying outside of your studio tomorrow. And so I was trying to promote it to them in hopes that they would come outside and cover us. I even mentioned at the end of the email, I'm like, this might boost your weekend ratings. Come on out. And they did get back to me and they acknowledged it. They said, awesome, that's so great. Thanks for letting us know. But it was kind of a brush off, so I didn't think anything of it.
Right.
And then anyway, so fast forward to the next day, which was yesterday. When I arrived, yes, they did send a cameraman out to film our rally, except he left right before all the chaos erupted. So I thought that was very interesting. That he would leave right when Antifa really picked up their game.
You know what I find interesting? Does anyone know if this was if Kathy Hochul or Antonio Delgado, if any of the Democrats, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Democratic Socialists of America, if they put out a similar email like they did with Lee Zeldin, because we've seen that they are more than willing to send their troops out. And I'm calling them troops because when you're talking about violence, that's what they are, to try and attack you guys for expressing an opinion, for your First Amendment rights.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I don't. I love the old saying now, it's become sort of a new saying, I should say, is what's the difference between conspiracy and fact? About 1 week now, right? So so really I would, I wouldn't put it past them. A lot of these agitators are paid. In fact, very interestingly enough, one of the agitators who was really adamantly, probably the prime agitator who was just absolutely persistent going after Andrew yesterday, actually, so one of my fellow freedom fighters went up to her. She was dressed very provocatively. She had only a strapless bra on, and was quite voluptuous, I'll say that, and pouring out of it.
Okay.
And she did it on purpose, of course, as a distractionary measure. And so one of my fellow freedom fighters, who's quite conservative, of course, said something to her about, oh, real nice, very classy. To which she responded like, I don't care what you think. And this isn't a quote, by the way. I'm paraphrasing, but she said something to the effect of, why do you guys even support Andrew? He doesn't even pay you. So right there,
Wait a minute. So they're
to
getting paid?
me, she showed her hand, didn't she? Why would they make that statement? And then it comes to come to find out from my intel sources who track these people that unfortunately she's had a bad row in life. And again, I don't know this to be fact, but they've been following them for the past 4 to 5 years, and the intel that they've received is that perhaps she has a bit of a drug problem and is also suffering from HIV.
But we can't confirm that.
But we can confirm that, and then intel on all the others as well, in and out of psych wards, homeless shelters, and so forth. Just so you get an idea of the people that they're targeting and recruiting for Antifa.
So these are people that are known and have been seen at sites enough that people can look into their histories, check out the internet, try and find out who these people are. And it appears to be, this is the type of quality that comes from Antifa, from the progressive left.
Absolutely. These are the profiles you're looking at. So you're not seeing someone who has strong political convictions. You're seeing someone who is an opportunist, but not in the right mind. You're taking someone out of a dire situation and you're throwing money at them. What are they going to do? I mean, if you're throwing $5,000-$6,000, and that's a totally made up arbitrary number, but it typically is in the thousands, because they know it has to be, attractive enough to them to even go to all this trouble. So it's usually a handsome enough reward to keep them motivated. And so that's what it really was on display quite obviously yesterday, for sure.
Let me ask this. Let me ask this question. I think it's important because I talked to Marcus about this, but I want to hear your opinion as someone who's not a candidate, as a regular person. In New York State, do you feel that you are more or less able to speak freely about your political beliefs now that you've seen what happened to Lee Zeldin, now that you see what's happening to Andrew Giuliani, now that you see that this is being directed from appointed Governor Kathy Hochul, Antonio Delgado is now making similar attacks? How do you feel?
Well, I mean, our First Amendment rights have been under attack for quite some time now. That's why we have felt compelled to join various movements and freedom organizations. I first was inspired by the Freedom Convoy up in Ottawa. And then when the People's Convoy was formed here in the United States, I just couldn't wait to get down to Hagerstown. And that then in turn inspired us to come back and organize the People's Convoy in New York. So that is, the First Amendment is absolutely at the forefront, especially as someone in the independent media, because and just in general, as an American citizen, as someone who believes in our Constitution, it's disgusting what you see. If, like, for instance, on certain media outlets, what is deplorable is what they don't show. They're not, or what they don't tell the whole story. And then on the other one, it's just blatant lies. And it's quite evident, especially when you're someone who is awake to it all, so to speak, who hasn't bought into the indoctrination. So absolutely. I mean, it's getting more and more difficult. I'm constantly in Facebook jail. I know, I'm sure a lot of your listeners can identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely censored. I already have a strike on YouTube, and that was for, actually, it seems, again, coincidence. I got my first strike not because I was covering a medical freedom rally, because that's a hot one, right? So usually, but it was actually covering a meeting in which Rudy Giuliani attended, and he spoke out about his innocence regarding the January 6th debacle.
Oh, that's another hot one.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that interesting. Okay, so here all typically the bulk of my live streams are covering medical freedom rallies. And Fates, but they never said a word. I didn't get so much as a slap on the wrist. But now I'm getting a strike because I'm covering Giuliani, America's mayor. So that was, again, another coincidence. I don't know. Very, very interesting. I think the Giulianis are absolutely being targeted right now. That's what more can you surmise?
I think Americans are being targeted. One of
Absolutely.
my viewers, Mr. John Cordisco, who also has a YouTube channel, Cordisco's Corner, he's been targeted. He had a strike against him. I've had repeated strikes against me for merely talking about. I have literally I've received strikes for quoting NBC News and Forbes, literally putting on the screen the very article that they published, and quoting that article was enough to get me strikes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's how bad it is right now. To just
It
literally
really
quote
is.
the mainstream media is enough to get you a strike. So you should take it. And Klaus has mentioned you should take this as a badge of honor. Let me.
I do, absolutely. And in fact, the reason we held this rally, we wanted to take on New York City. So what we did is we broke our state up into regions. I mean, we're a state of 19 million people at the end of the day. We have a lot of people to organize. So it wasn't like we were going to tackle this by just creating one huge group. You know, when you're organizing, we found we have to break it up by region. So we have 9 regions, and we have admins in each region that have taken on the role of taking on that leadership role of organizing events in their own areas. And so this was to support Region 9, which was Long Island and New York City. So we were thinking about where we would hold this rally. You know, what would be the most effective, or what would make the most sense to get our message across. And so I was kicking around, Central Park and maybe MSG or all sorts of ideas. And then a lot of our group members said, Fox. We want Fox. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, why Fox? And he's like, because they're not covering us. They were up in Ottawa covering the Freedom Convoy the entire time. But once the People's Convoy in the United States got off the ground, we didn't get, I take that back. We got, I think, the local news channel, maybe the local news affiliate in DC. They covered us for a few nights only because it was local news. It was pertinent to the people in the area who might, suffer from, some traffic backups and so forth as a result of us being there. But other than that, we were being completely blacked out from the national media, which was fascinating because it was like, well, why would Fox be such huge proponents and cover the Freedom Convoy in Canada, but not the one here? So that is what inspired us to actually have the rally in front of Fox News, because while perhaps they may be our best shot at getting coverage and so forth and getting their support at least, they still were doing such a grave disservice by not reporting on our movement, because although we have already grown into an organization of more than 10,000 people since April, who knows how many people we could have organized by now. Well, if the media would give us the attention we believe we deserve.
Well, I know that when I was at the People's Convoy in Albany and provided coverage of that event, the news media didn't. I mean, we had not just Marcus was there. There were about 12 different candidates for New York races, including a friend of mine, Larry Sharp, a friend of this channel, who is a libertarian, but he's also a legitimate candidate. I think he has 10%, maybe more of the vote for governor, and they wouldn't cover him. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is our race. This is the governor's race. This is a recognized candidate, and I'm like the only. Well, me and other YouTubers were the only people actually covering the news that's important to people of New York. It's very upsetting.
Absolutely. And who am I? I literally started live streaming 4 months ago.
Well, you're doing fantastic, because I know you've got videos with 12,000, tens of thousands of people paying attention. You're getting more attention now, and you deserve it. What's your
Yeah.
channel on YouTube so people can go and check out some of the coverage that you're doing?
Sure. So my YouTube is Freedom Fox. That's 2 words. And so I'll always live stream everything and I'll do it uncensored. So that's your best bet. Whenever I have a live stream, you're going to want to check it out because it's not that I edit it afterwards. It's that I have to remove it or else I will get my channel taken down. So, so
Free
that's your
speech
best.
in action, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's your best bet. So I'll leave it up for like 24 hours and then I'll throw it on Rumble. And so in the description of my YouTube channel, I do have my Rumble channel as well, which is LTrain60. And that's where you can find more of my provocative coverage. And when I say that, I mean, you're just going to see more of like I said, the medical freedom rallies and the more controversial subjects that YouTube just will not allow to be seen right now.
Well, I'm on Rumble as well, I understand, and we got to try and get as much coverage as possible. And that's why I'm very happy and thank you for taking some time to speak with us about these events that we're only sort of hearing about and that are also being hidden from us because Fox News really didn't put any coverage out there. And I think far too few people have actually heard the reality of, especially from people who were there, what happened before, what's the consequence afterwards, how we are being censored by the Democrats, the progressives in New York State and across this country. I think more people need to know about this.
Absolutely. How will you ever know who to vote for unless you can hear them speak, right? And hear the inflection in their voice and their mannerisms and truly hear everything they have to say about what they believe in and what they're going to do for us, we the people here in New York. Especially in these Democratic run cities where they've defunded the police, what are the ramifications? We follow these police blotters every day. I think I might start utilizing my Facebook page to show the crime in Rochester, for instance, because it is out of control.
Yeah.
It's so disheartening and so sad. And I don't even have words for it. It's literally almost a murder a day now.
Yeah.
Every other day. That's not a crime statistic. That's my speculation, but that's what I'm looking at. When I see these, every time there's a crime committed, it's obviously someone on this page that is listening to the scanner and reporting on what they're hearing as they're hearing it. So it's a literal scanner straight from the Rochester Police Department. So again, they're now the media, and as far as that goes, they're telling us what's going on in real time. This is who's getting carjacked. This who's getting murdered. This is who is getting shot. And all of those things happen every single day. Not to mention the larceny that's going on, the blatant shoplifting. It is a war zone, and it's insane. So that's another avenue. So I was thinking about maybe going in that direction because, like you said, the media, they may be forced to report on one or two big stories, like the one that same night where the officer was literally executed point blank in the head. So they'll cover the big ones, but they're not covering everything. And then most of the newscast is just filled with fluff. Quite frankly, they constantly do 3 reports on the weather and then sports and then all the feel good stuff. And then of course, whatever their agenda is.
That's why we've seen such a growth. I mean, people don't trust. And we've seen many studies that have come out, many polls that have come out and said the public doesn't trust the news media. There was a poll, I believe it was Pew Research, just came out with a poll 2 weeks ago that the 55% of journalists don't believe in unbiased reporting. They believe in putting out a biased agenda to the public. 55%. And this is from Pew Research. So
unbelievable. I believe it. And I remember, so I'm going to be 40 this year in another month, actually. And
still young.
So Yep, I'm a youngin. And so when I went to high school at Penfield, I'm a Penfield grad, that's a suburb of Rochester, New York. Very good school. I was very blessed to have what I thought at the time was a really great education, and for the most part it was. And but I took journalism as an elective, and this was in high school, mind you, and they taught you journalism 101. And on day one, they teach you, of course, about the what, where's, who, what, where, when, and why. That's huge. You got to cover all those things in every article. And then the other biggest point on day one that they teach you is there is no room in journalism for your personal opinion. It has to be. It must be unbiased. This is taught in junior year of high school, at least in the 1990s. So, I mean, if that was taught to me as a 16, 17-year-old, like how did we get so far away from that? It's just, it's insane. It's crazy. And we all know why. I think there are 6 major corporations that are lean Democratic that probably run these news media outlets.
That's for sure. Let me do this, Lindsay. I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day today. I know you've been doing so much, and I do appreciate you've been with us about 40 minutes now, and I do appreciate that. Again, I want people to check you out on Rumble. That is the L Train 60 on Rumble. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. I don't do much with that channel. It's literally just a library. It's a place where I can store all of my more controversial videos.
Not a problem. And you can also be found on Freedom Fox on YouTube and on Facebook. What would they look for?
Facebook, it's just my name, Lindsay Mercado. Maybe I'll change it to Freedom Fox just so it's easier to find me. Okay. In fact, maybe I'll do that when I hang up with you.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think I might change that to Freedom Fox just so it's easier to find me. So that, when I start really, because I really, although I typically am in Facebook jail, I can't believe that I've gone 48 hours out of jail. I'm on parole, and I haven't been, I haven't reoffended yet, or at least the bots haven't found anything yet. So that could change very quickly. So probably the minute I change it to Freedom Fox, I'll be back in jail for another 10 days. But
probably.
At least I am able to post. I just typically can't respond to comments or react to things. Or you know the drill, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
So Facebook isn't the best way to follow me, unfortunately, or at least to communicate with me, because I pretty much I'm not allowed to. They take away that ability for me to do so.
Well, I'm hoping that people are going to find you all over on all of this and follow you on all of them, because I always recommend people should hear more of what's going on the ground from whatever sources they can, and then make their own decision. So, and we appreciate that you've given us to be able to get more information today that the media won't put out there. We will, but the major media won't.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. First of all, I really appreciate all those wonderful compliments and for all of your support and for having me on today. And keep fighting the good fight, right? And the more people understand what's going on, I think we've really turned a corner here. I really do believe that. I think more and more people are waking up. We're getting a lot more educated and awake, not woke.
Yeah, big difference.
We're getting more awake people who are now sick and tired of, at the very least, it's not that mainstream media is just outright lying to you. It's that they're evading the truth, or they're just not showing everything that, quite frankly, really affects you and your everyday life. And that's a grave disservice to the American people. So I really appreciate you having me on and for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today.
Well, we appreciate it as well. And we look forward to being able to work with you more in the future as well.
Absolutely. Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, folks. So you've just heard from Freedom Fox. We want to thank her again for her time with us today. And you too can call in to the program, as she just did, 607-242-1582. You're able to get your voice heard, whether you agree with us or you disagree with us. If you thought that Freedom Fox, her coverage was somehow wrong, or somehow the video that you saw wasn't real, please tell me, because I hear that from some progressives. They say, oh, well, that just couldn't be real. It wasn't really an assassination attempt. Well, look at the video. As we put it out, as Freedom Fox has put it out, you can see that. Oh, you got another call. Hey, John. So now I got two Johns here.
There we go.
So I'm going to call you Cordisco, okay? Oh, we lost him. He hung up.
All right.
All right. Well, call back.
Yeah.
We're still here. So, John, let's talk about what happened with Lee Zeldin, what's happening with Antifa in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. Yep. Hello, John. Are you there? Cordisco. I can't hear you, John.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay,
I
there
can
we
hear
go.
you now.
There we go.
What's up?
I'm not hearing you. Can you hear me?
We hear you perfectly, John.
Okay. Yeah, I was in silence there for a while. John Cordisco, what's up, guys?
What's going on?
How's it going?
Well, your show's going to go downhill from here.
Why?
Because it's me. Depending on what mood I'm in, how crazy I get.
Well, you're always crazy, but we live with it anyway. Go on. What's going on, man?
Yeah, being normal, I'm not a big fan of that. So let's, but anyway, it was interesting what the lady had to say. It's funny, I just read a story on the Fox homepage concerning the so-called attacker. Well, they say alleged. I guess you got to say alleged.
He's on,
And,
you got to say it, but he's on video. It's not like we can't see it.
Oh, yeah. It's like Jack Ruby didn't shoot Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean,
Yeah.
Everybody saw it. But anyway, he's saying now that he really didn't know who Lee Zeldin was, and he just wandered up on stage, and it's implying, I'm reading between the lines, it's just a big misunderstanding because I was intoxicated. Well, the fact of the matter is, if he wasn't drunk, that's probably what saved Zeldin from injury.
That is what saved, in my opinion, looking at the way he jabbed at Zeldin's throat. Yeah, that's the only thing, because he was slowed down and it was unexpected. But of course, what criminal have you ever heard of in your lifetime that says, yeah, I got caught? Of course I did it. I did it on purpose. Of course he's going to say he doesn't know, or he's going to deny the crime. Because in New York State, if you deny it, then they'll let you off because it's not your fault.
He's sorry and all that. Well, the fact of the matter is, like the kid goes before the judge, and the kid says, I'm sorry, and the judge says, you're not sorry. You're just sorry you got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Obviously was incredibly stupid. But the part that really is the underlying point of all this is that he was released right away by the local district attorney. Now, shortly thereafter,
on a felony attempted murder.
Right. The feds came in and arrested him for an attack on a sitting Congress member. So if he wasn't a Congress member, he'd still be walking around.
Yeah, that is bail reform in New York State. That's bail reform that they want for the nation. You attempted murder.
That was the ironic part. He was giving a speech on bail reform.
Yeah, I know. And look at this. You're talking about, okay, well, the argument is, well, if they do a serious crime, they'll be held in. What's more serious than attempted murder?
Well, plus I think, too, that the district attorneys and judges and municipalities, when you attack someone that's running for a high public office, not that it matters, I think the penalty and what they do to you should be a little bit higher to set an example that this isn't a banana republic and we don't do this.
What, you mean like that when someone decides that they want to assassinate a Supreme Court justice, maybe someone like, I don't know, I'll throw a name out there, Kavanaugh, that maybe we should have a law like exists already, which is 18 U.S.C. 1508, that says it's a crime.
I'm not saying that Lee Zeldin's life is worth more than the average person walking around. It's not because that's a hate crime type thing, which I hate. But as an example that you can't disrupt our political and social process through violence, and there will be an extreme penalty.
Well, let me ask this. So this is going to go to you, Cordisco, and for John as well.
Yep.
As well as people who are watching. Let me ask you, do you feel more safe knowing that appointed Governor Kathy Hochul and the progressive movement believe that it is okay to have their supporters to call to action to have their supporters attack people that have a different point of view. Does that make you feel more safe or less safe? Let's start with Cordisco.
Well, it makes you feel less safe, of course, but the fact of the matter is, though, I feel more secure in the fact that we're winning.
Okay.
For her to do something like that and then put out the basic hit list is what she did, just a day before or 2 days before, that shows their desperation.
Okay, so they're that desperate that they have to resort to nothing but intimidation, physical violence. That's your
and it's worked in the past. Now, the odds are, of course, I mean, the bookies. If you got to go to a bookie, Hochul will probably win. I'd say it's probably 60-40 in her advantage, maybe a little better. But it's a lot closer than they would like in a deep, deep blue state like New York. So what she's doing is, where she's just throwing raw meat to her base, which is the cult members, what I call the city urban liberal types, the cult, to keep their votes in line because she needs them in order to win. So I think this is all. If this wasn't an election year, she would have done it entirely different.
Okay, so John, what do you think?
I think I feel much less safe. Not only that, I mean, keep in mind, Lee Zeldin legally couldn't even wear body armor.
Well, yeah, he can't wear a bulletproof
Right,
vest.
he
It's a
can't-
crime in New York.
Right, we've literally taken away ways to protect yourself at
Passively.
this point. Yes, passively protect yourself and keep yourself safer. I mean, Hochul inadvertently put his life in even more danger with these actions. I mean, this is where we're at.
But she promised that you're going to be safe.
Um,
I assume that only means
Well,
people that believe what she believes.
Yeah, when you're getting rid of the police force, when you're getting rid of ways to defend yourself, you're becoming reliant on politicians, and that's what they want.
I was just in Tennessee not too long ago, a month ago.
Right.
There's constitutional carry there.
Yeah,
I went to a Walmart, several restaurants around. I was in central Tennessee, fairly small town, 20,000. Felt completely safe. But
Yeah.
when I came back here in New York, I basically felt the same, and I'll tell you why. I'm not going to allow these pieces of blank to change how I live and think.
Mhm.
If you do that, then they've won a battle that I don't want them to win.
hmm
Okay. But is it...
I'm no more cautious. I went to the Price Chopper a few days ago. Got some groceries. I'm no more. It's where the store is located, where you get your radar up a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, you and I are from Binghamton, so you know what we're talking about. But it's not like, well, because of all these events that's happened around the country and this and that, we're on edge as we go into these public places and malls and theaters. I don't act any differently or think any differently. I still do the same things that I always look for. You know, any weirdos around you or somebody acting odd. I mean, I don't go out of my way to do it, but I'm not on alert. It doesn't change my mindset any.
But when we're thinking about this, how, and this is for anyone in the nation, it's not just in New York. Remember, we've got not just this attack, but we got to remember there's also the 4 assassins that came in to come after George Bush because we have an open border. We have the attempted assassination of Kavanaugh. We have, there's a couple of other attacks that have happened. We're seeing that Maxine Waters, as an example, in Minneapolis, as she's telling the audience to go out there and go after and track down those Republicans.
Tucker calls her the lowest IQ in Congress.
Oh, no, that would be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, no, I think ALC is smarter. She's just wackier, but we'll put it this way. It's an incredibly high bar for being the dumbest, so maybe you're right.
But, I mean, we're seeing consistently that there is a targeting of people based on their political beliefs that is being concerted. It's a concerted effort by progressives. Yep. And I have to think, that's not an America that I grew up in 54 years of my life. I don't think, John, that's your America.
Oh, no. Historically, we've always had violence, especially when it comes to the social and political upheaval. In fact, this is calm now compared to what it used to be. Remember the Weather Underground and all the bombings?
Wait a minute, you're talking about the 60s. You're talking
Well, that's
about...
not not a million years ago.
Wait a minute. What we're talking about there were a group of progressives who became the modern day progressives, the Weather Underground. These individuals were terrorists, and they were a small fringe that had no connection to actual politics at the time. Today,
The institutional power. Yeah, you're right.
right, and today we have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying to defy the Supreme Court and to go after the Supreme Court and to pack the courts. We have
The inmates have taken over the asylum. I got you.
Well, I want to be very clear because we're talking to a lot of people. There's Maxine Waters, who is saying track down people, go to their homes. Nancy Pelosi saying going after them. We have Kathy Hochul putting out a target list, and we are seeing not just going after Zeldin, but then there's the Manhattan attack as well by Antifa, their strong arm group.
Well, now, the only reason why it's more dangerous, the only reason why it's more dangerous for the average person is one single thing. Is back, say, in the 50s and 60s, especially in the 50s, there was anarchy all over the place. They didn't have any institutional power. But the average person was armed a lot of higher percent than they are now. That's the only difference.
Well, Rastusha, let me ask you, what do you feel about this?
So I'll say this. I mean, 10, 20 years ago, you weren't getting college kids getting chased off of campus because they had a cardboard cutout of George W. Bush. You didn't have that happen, right? In the early 2000s. You didn't have, like we have today, where you get a speaker on campus and they have to hire 3 levels of security just to have them come speak on the campus. You might have people protesting, but you're not having 3, 4 levels. You're not having the university not only not protecting the speaker, but then saying you have to pay extra money to protect that speaker because we don't even want him on our campus.
You need the bird's eye view. You need the bigger picture.
Well, here's part of the bigger picture. We're not talking about a Ben Shapiro appearing or a what's his name? The other.
No, what I mean by the
we're talking about we're referencing right here an economist.
Right. What I'm talking about is the bigger, but you're misunderstanding that bigger picture. As these, we'll say, conservative people like Loeffner at SUNY Binghamton here was shouted down. That's happening all over the country, and it's quite common, and it's considered just normal now. That means to me that the left has been so incredibly radicalized that it shows the rest of the country, we'll call the normies, the normal people, that these people are whack jobs, and all they want to do is cause anarchy and tear the system down. That has been really, really amplified by them. And that shows me, at least in my opinion, they are losing.
What do you think, Rastusha?
I think I somewhat disagree that they're losing. I mean, nowadays, these people, I don't know if I've talked about this on the show. I've attended some of the far left training for college students. They're actively getting funding to teach people how to shout down. I wouldn't say they're losing if they were losing, I think they would lose financial backing, but a lot of these groups and college groups are getting professional financial backing and being taught how to do this. I think... I wish they were losing, but as we're getting to the point like you were talking about with social media bans and things like that, if we are winning, it's very hard to see that. I think they're blocking out those voices.
I think the point is that we're winning is proof in the fact that they're getting more and more radical, which means they're more and more desperate for their position. And they see that they're losing and they're reacting badly.
Well, let me mention this. Because it doesn't feel like losing to me when I see that that an assassination attempt, again, is being downgraded. We're hearing the news media say, oh, it was just an attack. Oh, he didn't mean to do it. We're going to release him. We're seeing the same kind of language that was used on the assassination attempt against Justice Kavanaugh. That doesn't feel like it's a loss on their side. It sounds like they're winning because they're covering it up. They're
well, no, it's like Nancy Pelosi would not give extra protection to the houses where the Supreme Court justices were and up some of the, we'll call military protection. I guess you'd have to use some military to protect them, but we'll give a couple of people to help protect the people's families. People are seeing that our institutions, in this case Congress and other things, have this cancer that's eroding them, and it's waking people up over time. And I think not all Democrats are stupid at the national level. Not all of them live in a bubble. Just the law of averages says there's got to be some that are really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had these useful idiots on their side during the 2020 riots to get Trump out. Now they don't know what the hell to do with them. They can't control them. They're out of control. And they're stuck with them, and they're going down with them, and they see that, and they don't know what else to do.
Well, let me ask Rustuja.
Yeah.
Is this going to lead? Is this the thing that's going to take appointed Governor Kathy Hochul and Antonio Delgado down? Is this going to end their campaign, their ability to be elected in New York, according to your opinion?
It's New York State, so, like, look at Cuomo. He killed the thousands of elderly people.
16,000.
16,000 elderly people. People like old people, right? That's, it's something a lot of people like. It's, Fauci killed puppies, and they're still in power, so no. And I'm going to push back a little bit on what you said, Cordisco. I think they're getting so far left is because they're winning. They've won so much over the years that they can get to the progressive level, and they keep pushing the boundary bit by bit to the point that young people now are more in favor of socialism than ever. And that's a scary thought to me.
But I'll use a historical comparison.
All right.
I'll use a historical comparison. We'll use the Civil War.
Okay.
For the first 2 or 3 years, the North was losing every major battle.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to dig yourself in for the long term. And that's exactly what they did, and they won. I think the analogy is the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like we're losing because they get so much publicity. The 3, 4, 5, 8, 10% that are getting 95% of the publicity aren't really the average American. It makes it look like they're winning because they get so many sound bites and they get so much television time and cable news time and internet time. It looks like they're bigger than they really and truly are.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, and I know for a fact that's true. We know for a fact that these various groups, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, Antifa, BLM, Veterans for Peace, these are all,
Oxymorons.
They're all the same groups.
Yeah.
They're all the same people in
Right.
different names of groups. I mean, what is that?
I'll give you an example of what Project Veritas pulled for Snub recently.
Yeah.
They went door to door, I think it was in Los Angeles, in a very heavy, deep blue, Democrat, progressive, anti-gun area. And they went door to door. And they asked people, and they pretended, are you, for gun control, and you for taking weapons off the street? Oh yeah. And they were all enthusiastic when they thought they were progressive reporters.
Mm-hmm.
So Project Veritas guy, James O'Keefe, went to his truck, pulled out a lawn sign that says, "This is a gun-free home." He goes, "Can I put this sign on your lawn?" And they all go, "No, whoa, you're going to tell everybody we're not armed." He says, "You just said you were against guns."
Yeah.
So, deep down inside, what they really say when they're trying to virtue signal for their politics, I think they don't believe.
Okay. I think there's a lot of people who are the silent majority that it's often called that don't agree with these things, but are not willing to be counted as against it. But we'll see by the votes. But let me do this.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And you and I both know, and I've ran a lot of local elections. I've lost some, I've won some. It comes to one thing, and we'll say New York State, we'll use the governor's race. Turnout. That is, it's not it's also a congressional year, which helps Democrats, unfortunately, but it's not as bad as a presidential year. The conservatives, the Republican Party, everybody that's against Hochul has to really push hard. And it's really sad that you have to go through all this Herculean task to get people to vote, but this is the way it is. You have to get them out. There's enough numbers in this state to defeat Hochul. You just have to get them out and vote.
Well, yes, we got to get them out to vote. That's true. Let me do this. I know there's a few people who want to talk. I think there's a person named Happy Life on the channel that believes in banning all guns and thinks that Joe Biden is doing well. That's fantastic. I want to see if they can call in. I would like to hear what they have to say.
Well, I wonder if that's just sarcasm.
No,
I'll leave it at that.
I already asked, and they said no. They're being responsible. So
We'll see if they call in. That'll be more interesting than me, that's for certain.
It'll be interesting for sure. But I thank you, John, for calling in.
Okay, guys, well, take care and have a good day.
Yeah, we
too.
will.
All right, bye.
So, just to let everyone know, you too can call into the program, just as we have seen where Lindsay called in to tell us about what she had observed firsthand, a witness to the events with Lee Zeldin and the attacks by Antifa. We have listened to John Cordisco, who called in to give some of his thoughts. And, I want to ask you, John, we know that Antonio Delgado is in the middle. I know there's echo. I can't help it. There's two mics going on. So Antonio Delgado is now using a new tactic. He's going to be the attack dog for Kathy Hochul, saying, well, you can't, Zeldin is a bad guy because January 6th, because President Trump, he supported him. He's just evil. He's alt-right. You can't. And that's supposed to be the justification for the attack and the list of asking the call to action to ask supporters to go after Lee Zeldin. Let me ask you, what are you feeling about that? Does that make sense? Does that make you say, gee, Antonio Delgado, he's made a great argument here. No wonder he abandoned the New York 19th Congressional District. Thank God he's out here trying to make sure that Lee Zeldin is going to be held accountable for supporting a president, and no wonder he got attacked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I don't. I haven't seen much of Delgado. I mean, I haven't seen much of Hochul in the area. I mean, to be fair, Hochul will probably spend all the time in New York City. And I want to also take a moment to respond to a comment by Happy Life.
Yeah.
If we melt the guns, that's only going to add to our carbon pollution. So which is it? If we melt the guns, we're going to add... Do you want global warming to increase or decrease here? You got to... I don't know if melting the guns is the answer that you really want if you're, one of these far left progressives, and I encourage you to call into the show.
Well, I find it interesting. Happy Life has said that we should ban all guns and melt the guns. Okay, fantastic. Then, first of all, what if someone says no? Are you going to forcibly take people's guns? Because if you're asking people, 165 million people in America, many of them are going to say no. You don't get that choice.
Then you do it by force, as what I would guess. Happy Life can come on to defend their position, but I guess Happy Life would want there to be force, which would inadvertently be fascism.
That is
Yes,
a
yes.
literal dictatorship.
Yes.
If that's the case. And again, I can only guess because Happy Life, who said that they're not being sarcastic, isn't, I want them to call in to clarify their position because it doesn't make sense. Happy Life believes that Biden has been doing a great job. Fantastic. Call and tell us how. I don't see it. I see that his oil policies have increased energy costs in America. I see that his policies, according to Pete Buttigieg, is just buy a car you can't afford, that if you plug into the electric grid will cause blackouts in your community. I see that internationally there has been more of a breakdown of peace than anything else. We have nations like Saudi Arabia ignoring Biden completely and talking to Russia instead and giving them oil. Saudi Arabia said, no, we can't give America more oil, but they're giving it to Russia. China, Biden gave China oil supposedly to protect the world, and yet they're talking to Russia as well. All of his policies have failed. We have thousands of Americans in Afghanistan. We have thousands of Americans in Ukraine, all lost and on their own. We have Griner for those into the celebrity thing. She's in Russia, not going to get any help. And we have a couple hundred Americans in China not getting any help. I don't hear anything that's positive.
No.
And I'm not picking on Happy Life. I'm picking on the policies that Happy Life is telling me are good. And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
let me add one other thing. Happy Life, please explain to me. I ask for your position. You're telling me you want to melt all the guns. The criminals who don't follow the law, that don't care, aren't going to melt their guns. Who's going to protect you? Is that a fair question, John?
That's a fair question, and I don't see Happy Life messaging or anything like that. So I don't know. But Mike, before I go, because I do have a dinner to attend, I want to.
It's your birthday.
It is. I want to do John's rant of the week.
Go for it.
Because, let this be a new segment where I complain about something every week that I see and I'm fuming about. And I called you, I think it was probably like 8 a.m., 6 a.m., mad about this. I want to talk about this because I learned some news, and I'm not going to get specific with it. The Republican Party needs to start calling out our own when we have bad candidates and when we have bad people working for the party. It's getting to the point where I'm hearing from people within the party say, well, we can't do that. It'll make us look bad. We shouldn't call them out. That's ridiculous. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because we have so many bad Republicans right now at this point.
Yeah.
We have tons. Why are so many people afraid to say, now wait a minute, why are we backing them? Why are we backing that candidate? Why did they get the nomination? Why are they working in these institutions? It boggles my mind. We have so many bad people.
Well, that's because we've had them there for decades, and the ultimate form of term limit is vote them out, and we don't.
No, because we have people in establishments all across the Republican Party say, well, they're winning races, therefore we don't care.
And that's troubling at the local level or at the national level.
Yeah.
That's how we get 14 people saying, hey, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which puts a target, it literally puts a dollar sign on American citizens saying, hey, we're going to take away their Second Amendment rights, and the federal government's going to pay us with your tax money. And we get 14 Republicans that say, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Yeah, and if we're supposed to be the party of some standard of morality, right, believing in Western beliefs, things like that, we need to start acting like it. We need to start being better than this because it's getting rid of... How come Brad Paschal still has a job? Brad Paschal, the same man who went crazy working for the former Trump campaign manager, right? Did all this illegal acts. How come he still can get work and still be campaign managing in the Republican Party and be seen as a respectful figure? That boggles my mind that we're allowing people like that. We should be... And it's not hard to vet people. It's not. You do simple tasks. You get a drug test for them, and you look up, gee, have they committed any crimes?
Yeah, that should be simple, but...
It's not, because you're right. These people have been in these institutions. We have spoil systems in place. This is the problem. Instead of actually calling out and holding us to a higher standard.
Even at the local level, we see this. I mean, even at the local level, there are individuals... I won't mention any names. There's individuals who are living a destructive lifestyle. I'll say it that way. And yet they're being held up by local party members because it's the old boys network,
Yeah. It's because, they have an R next to their name. That's why, we should be holding them to the standards of conservatism. Right, what is the major fundamental beliefs behind conservatism and being a Republican? We should be holding them to those standards that we hold the Democrats and we attack the Democrats for.
I would love to see that, but, I'm afraid that we're not going to see that because they're worried about elections. I mean, there are Republicans right now who are considering the assault weapons ban of 2021, which makes no sense. Did you see Thomas Massey when he came out and he said... And he pointed out, you know what the M1 Garand is, right?
Of course I do.
Okay, it's for people who don't know, it's the rifle that won World War II. The M1 Garand was a weapon of war. It was used in World War II to fight the Germans and the Japanese. It was fantastic. That is under the assault weapons ban of 2021, which is meant to somehow make you safer and to get rid of weapons of war, quote unquote. The M1 Garand is legal, will not be banned. Does that make any sense to anyone? This is supposed to be able to make you safe from weapons of war, and yet the M1 Garand isn't on the list because the Democrats, short-sighted, it's not something that looks like it belongs in an action movie. That's what they're talking about, and they're just trying to wipe out our ability to defend ourselves.
Yeah. And you know what it is, too? They think they're Republicans because they believe in social conservatism to some degree, but they don't want the other aspect of conservatism and republicanism to be attached to them, the social issues.
Right.
You know, the domestic issues that affect us. They want to say, oh, well, we'll cut your taxes, so that makes you a Republican. No, that doesn't make you a Republican. No, it doesn't. But that's how New York State and a lot of different local rhinos and statewide and even national-wide, look at Mitt Romney. Is there a conservative bone in Mitt Romney's body anymore with social issues?
Hard to say.
Exactly. And this is what I am furious about this week. And, I called Mike and let this be a reoccurring segment where I go off on random topics, but we need to hold our Republican politicians to a higher standard. I think I told you 2 weeks ago, if there's a Republican who is only talking about tax cuts in 2022, when we have so many other issues we're concerned about, and if that's all they're promising you, vote them out. They are not a Republican. They are living in 2012.
Yeah, there's so many other issues that are going on.
We have the culture we're worrying about. We have abortion. We have guns. Don't just...
Free speech.
Yeah, if you're a Republican and you claim to be a Republican and you are elected to be a Republican, do not just claim to be for one aspect that most agree with you. If you think you're socially left, there's a party for you. It's called the Libertarian Party. We need to be gatekeeping our Republicans a bit better, especially nationwide, statewide, local level. It does not matter.
Well, that's the problem, is we let them through the system. We have, and maybe it's a problem of at the local level, the party that puts these candidates up. But I think it scares me that we have so many people who are willing to compromise on the fundamental issues, because I think Second Amendment is a fundamental issue. The right to life is a fundamental issue. Free speech is an absolute essential item. If you cannot say, I'm a libertarian, I'm a conservative, I'm a moderate Democrat, I'm, God forbid, a Republican and conservative, if you can't say that, you aren't free.
No.
And we aren't living in a democracy. We're not even living in the representative republic of the United States as we used to be if we can't say those things. And no one else in the world is going to get more free than us. That's a cycle that goes down the road, I believe.
And it's ridiculous because we have real patriots running. John Cordisco just called in.
Yeah.
Great guy. Love John. Real patriot, I think. He didn't win his race. And, we didn't see a lot of Republicans come out to support him. That's ridiculous. That, when you have people like that, you have actual patriots running in these races, and instead we're going to go with the establishment picks. We're going to go with the opposite. That's...
Well, we've seen that a lot in a lot of races,
Yeah, we're seeing it time and time again. And
I'll point it out very clearly. There was an example of that in the southern tier of New York as an example, and I'm sure people across the country can look at your local race to see something similar. There was a race for the assembly, the candidate to be the Republican in the New York State Assembly race for the 123rd District. There was Sophia Rosinetti, and there was Robin Alpaugh. I know both. These individuals for many, many years. Robin was the establishment candidate, and Sophia was the choice of the public.
Yeah.
Sophia won the primary. She should have.
Yes.
Because she's a better candidate. Robin is a great guy. He's a bureaucrat.
Sure.
He doesn't speak publicly. He's never run for elected office. He's never wanted to.
Yeah.
If we are getting that kind of choice of, okay, here's an establishment, someone who has no real benefit other than saying, well, the party said I'm good. Why do we have candidates like that? We should, and why? And I could say that probably for the Democrats too, because they're doing the same thing with progressives. They're just going, oh, well, the progressive's got a big voice. He's got a big mouth. We'll go with them. And that's how we get AOC in. Not because of the quality, just because they have a good ad and they have a big mouth.
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing enough to get good Republicans elected. And instead, it seems like we're going with the safest choice, who just turns out to be nothing. I mean, it boggles my mind, but... And one more thing before I go, different subject. There is a candidate out in Arizona, friend of mine. I've met him multiple times. I don't know if I'd say friend. Love the guy. He's an outspoken black conservative, former Oakland Raider, pastor. Yes, his name's Jerome Davidson. He released the greatest political ad of the year, probably in the last 3 years I've seen. He is in the hospital. I wanted to...
Well, to let people know, Jerome is the guy who did if you saw the ad, Republican ad, black man with an AR-15, and there are a bunch of Democrats in hoods, white hoods, you know what I'm talking about here, that were coming after him. He's like, nope, I'm here to protect you from these guys, from these Democrats. It's a great video. It got a lot of national acclaim.
It did, yeah.
So this is the guy we're talking about.
Yeah. And right now, he's in the hospital. Blood disorder, I believe, and then he went to surgery. First one didn't work. He's doing a little bit better. Just wanted to, give our best wishes to Jerome Davidson, running in Arizona. He's a good patriot. He's an actual conservative. He doesn't back down either.
That's true.
He's a strong. I mean, you have to be if you're an Oakland Raider, former NFL player. You have to not back down. But specifically with him, he's not afraid. And every time I've talked to him, he's like, I don't care if this is controversial.
Well, that's good. That's what it's supposed to be.
Here's what I believe. Here's what I believe. Here's what I think. You can,
I think if too many people are afraid now to speak because they're like, is this too controversial? Will they let me say that on Facebook? I mean, we heard from Lindsay. You've heard. I've had it in my life. You've had it in yours. Where it's like, oh, I don't know if I can type that. I know for a fact here on YouTube, there's certain things where I'm like, okay, we can't say that, because of censorship.
And that's why we're getting such weak Republicans, right? Because they're afraid. They just want to talk about the issue that's popular and then completely ignore or vote left on the other issues.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, and that's what we need to fix as a party. But, I just want to send the best of wishes to Jerome Davidson and his family and his entire church. He's a pastor. He's a good man. You can find him. Obviously, Mike, have you showed the video on your channel?
I did before. I can bring it up again.
Yeah. But, Mike, thank you so much for having me for this half of the show.
Absolutely.
I cannot wait to tune into the rest of the show and everything like that. Thanks for having me, Mike, and I'll be back next week for the whole show.
Absolutely. And I want you to have a great birthday. Enjoy the time with the family.
Absolutely.
Say hello for me.
Absolutely.
But definitely have fun with the birthday.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike, and thanks for everyone in the comments for joining me on my birthday. And you can also achieve my birthday wish by donating to No Soundbites Allowed. The one birthday wish I have. All right. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, man. So, folks, there's a lot that we've been talking about. Let me ask you, you can all call in. I'm so happy that John spent some of his birthday with us, and I do appreciate that intensely. I also appreciate the fact that we're getting calls coming in and that you're making your comments. It's important to have these conversations. Let me ask again to everyone out there, do you feel like you can speak? Do you feel that when you see Kathy Hochul, when you see Antonio Delgado demonize people because they don't have the same political belief, send out their attack dogs on people because they express a different belief, do you think that helps America or is that hurting America? Remember, Kathy Hochul is the same person who said that she had to pass a brand new gun control law in New York that targets hate speech because she needs to make you safe. She has to do something. This is the same woman that told people to go after Lee Zeldin. Do you feel safer knowing that she's going to be in control, that she's the one who's going to deny you the right to be able to have a second firearm, to deny your Second Amendment rights, and to use the Bipartisan Communities Act to make money for putting you on a list because you don't do what she wants. Does that make you feel better? Because it's happening not just in New York. You see Newsom, what's his name? Greg Newsom out of California. You have Whitmer in Michigan. You have Wolf in Pennsylvania. How many governors can I go through? We're seeing this across the nation. Isn't this something that concerns you? It's terrifying to me because this is literally authoritarianism. This is literally things that we see that dictators do early in their careers. They silence the public. They take away the firearms. They abuse the people. The most recent example, and I've made it many times on this program, is what we saw in Venezuela. Yes, the very same Venezuela that we heard Bernie Sanders suggest America should model itself after. What's that model? A dictator got elected in under the terms of socialism and how great that was going to be, took away the guns, took away all the guns of the public, and then killed 5,000 of their own people. The people are living out of garbage cans and killing zoo animals to have enough food to eat. We see mumps and measles have gone rampant in that country, and there is a mass exodus coming to the United States border for 4 years now because of how great a system that was. This is the example that they're putting in front of us. Now, if you disagree with me, and I know Happy, who was it? Happy Dog, I think, was speaking on the channel before, and you say, well, no, these guys are great. Please explain to me how. I'm not trying to beat up on you. I'm not trying to say, oh, you can't speak. I'm just asking, please explain to me how am I wrong? That the very thing that Bernie Sanders said we should do has destroyed thousands, tens of thousands of lives to the point that people are abandoning their homes to come to America to be second-class citizens hiding in the shadows as criminals. Why is that a good idea? You know, why is that something that we want to emulate? How is it that we are not seeing, every news media should be targeting Kathy Hochul and her campaign and saying, you don't get to deflect this, to use Antonio Delgado to be an attack dog against Lee Zeldin because your initial attack of sending supporters to physically confront Lee Zeldin failed. That's not good. How is it that we can see that these people are going to win? Think about it. Democrats think they're going to win. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, yes, she's raising less money. Yes, many of the Democratic Socialists of America are not raising as much money as their competitors. They're still expected to win in many races. Shouldn't that terrify people? Or am I wrong? Am I missing this? Am I getting this wrong? Please call in 607-242-92, 607-242-1582. You'll see it scrolling above me. Call in. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Tell me what you think. Because I cannot imagine that this is a positive for America. I cannot imagine that this is working out to our advantage to become apparently more of a dictatorship than a free nation. That we're taking on more of the attitudes and techniques of China, a communist nation, China, than we were America in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. We're abandoning our freedom, and it's tearing our nation apart. People are saying, oh, well, January 6th. Yeah, what about what happened just this week? Come on, let's put this in perspective, folks. Let's look at what's happening out here. I mean, we've been seeing this for years. And again, it's not just with Lee Zeldin. It's not just with what we saw with Kavanaugh. Remember, there was Steve Scalise. Democrats sent their troops out, and Steve Scalise, he was attacked by a guy in a baseball field. Did we forget that this happened? That this was under the direction of Democrats and their policies? That their demand for control and to silence anyone that disagrees with them? Did we forget that? Because I sure didn't. But it seems the news media absolutely forgets. In fact, they don't talk about these stories. When was the last time you heard anyone telling you about what's going on with the guy who planned to assassinate our Supreme Court justice? The Las Vegas shooter is a problem, absolutely. But and we cannot look at every mass shooting as the same thing. I know, yes, there are certain similarities between many of them. Like the New York subway shooter is a black supremacist. The Buffalo shooter was a white supremacist. He was also a Democrat. Both of them are Democrats. We have the Uvalde shooter, who was a Democrat. We have the 4th of July Highland Park shooter, who's a Democrat. Yeah. But the thing that I find more troubling isn't just that they have these mass shooters or people like the Waukesha driver or the Las Vegas driver or the Manhattan 2017 driver that are using cars as vehicles to commit these crimes, these insane acts of demonic acts of violence. I think it's bigger than just that. It's when we get guys who just walk on a stage because someone said, go do that. And he just did. He just walked on a stage just because some politician said, go do that. That's terrifying to me. And I want you to remember that the Democrats right now are trying to put through laws that are going to make you more or make you less safe. If the gun ban goes through, here's something that you don't hear often. According to the Obama administration in 2013, as a reaction to the Sandy Hook shooting, they did a study. The Obama administration did an official study, which we did a video on about 3 days ago, and they found that American citizens having the right to conceal carry, American citizens having the right to defend themselves, resulted in somewhere around 500,000 times that American citizens defended their life. 500,000 times a year. It could be as high as 3 million. But I'm using the lowest number from the Obama administration study on people using a defensive gun use. And Democrats want to take that away from you. That means Democrats want 500,000 more victims in America, according to the Obama administration. Again, I'm using left-leaning sources. I'm using left-leaning data to make the point. They want to increase the number of victims in America by 500,000. And we're supposed to think that's a good thing, and we're supposed to applaud, and we're supposed to vote for them to make more victims than to save lives? That doesn't make sense. Jan is asking, do I think all the droughts that are happening are because of weather control? We can't control the weather. Jan, we can't control. Look at your local bus route. I mean, public transportation, we can't control that. We can't control our electrical grid. We can't control anything. Let's be honest. And so, especially something like climate, we can't even predict what's going to happen tomorrow in the weather. We can't. It is completely arrogant. It is an insane amount of arrogance to say that we can control the weather, as Democrats do. That's what climate change is about, to control the weather. We can't do that. We can't even predict the weather, let alone control it. So, no, I don't think the droughts are happening because of weather control. And I don't think we have any control over, there's no man-made control over the climate. If we had some, maybe there would be, since 1958 until today, maybe one of the predictions, even one of the predictions that have been made by the climate control climatologists would be right. They have never been right, ever. So no, I don't think that we have any impact. Is the world getting warmer or colder? Maybe. It's done it before. It'll do it again. It has nothing to do with us. We can't stop it. We can't do anything about it. We can live with it. That's about it. Now, if you ask me, should we have a cleaner world? Sure, absolutely. But do I think we should destroy the economies and the ability to have the quality of life that we have right now because of climate change? No, absolutely not. I think it's stupid. I think it's absolutely stupid. But I think people want to control the weather. We just can't. We're not good enough at it. That's technology beyond us. That's my opinion. You may think I'm wrong. That's okay. But they want people to be victims. And we've seen that over and over. And all of their ideas, their ideology, their comments, they don't work. I mean, again, when I say that Antonio Delgado is targeting, he's trying to change the conversation. He wants to twist it from what we have seen to turn it into something else. Well, here it is. This is Antonio Delgado, and I'm quoting, this is from Politico. Delgado's comments, let me start. Delgado's comments are, quote, to have somebody who you served with take such an extreme position is very hurtful, and it's alarming. Speaking about Lee Zeldin in Congress, well, I find it alarming and hurtful that Antonio Delgado abandoned the New York 19th district with no support, with no one to replace him, to take a different political position because it was something that it would help his party. I find that alarming and hurtful. But let's go on. Politico continues with, Delgado's comments give the clearest view yet of the emerging Hochul campaign strategy. Her team wants to seize on the Capitol assault and Zeldin's conservative positions, including his support for former President Donald Trump, to boost Democratic turnout as she seeks a full term in a heavily blue state. And she'll stay above the political fray by letting her running mate be the public aggressor, mitigating any potential downsides to going negative early. Zeldin is poised to run a race focused on the economy, crime, and state corruption, hoping a red wave vote of this November can help him beat the odds. So think about that. What's more important to you? That Lee Zeldin or any Republican running for any office across the nation, that they supported our former president while he was president, or the economy, crime, and state corruption? Pick any state in America. Are you more concerned about the corruption in your state? Are you more concerned about the crime that has been skyrocketing across this nation? Are you more concerned about the economy, your money, inflation at 9.1% and increasing, and the upcoming food shortage? Which one is going to affect your life more importantly? Whether or not he had a political position 3 years ago, or what's happening today. Kathy Hochul isn't focused on what's happening today. She's not worried about the crime, which we have a perfect example of, that she caused. No, she doesn't care about that. She wants you to care about Donald Trump. What does Donald Trump have to do with the inflation rate at 9.1% or more? What about the food shortage that the White House has already told us is going to happen? Do you care about that? Or do you care that someone voted for Donald Trump? Which one's going to affect your life? That he voted for Donald Trump, or whether or not you're going to have food on your plate in November? Do you care about whether or not there's going to be crime like we see in Rochester that is surging? Or do you care about whether someone voted for a different candidate 3 years ago? Which one's going to have more of an impact on your life? Truly. Because according to New York State, according to California, according to Michigan, we're talking about, Whitmer, we're talking about Newsom, we're talking about Wolf in Pennsylvania, Murray in New Jersey. They think it's that someone voted the wrong way, that someone didn't vote the way they wanted, that someone did something they didn't like, that they hurt their feelings. Because you hurt their feelings in voting for someone they don't like, that's a bigger issue than fixing the food shortage, fixing the economy, fixing the corruption in our states. That's what the choice is in 2020. That's the choice in 2024. Tell me, which one do you think is more important? Seriously, folks, I want someone to call in about this. Tell me what you think is the bigger issue facing America right now. What someone voted for 3 years ago or the food on your table? Which one's the bigger impact in your life? Because according to the mainstream media, according to the Democrats in charge, the answer is the vote 3 years ago. That's more important than your food on your table. That's what they want to focus on. It's because they have no plan. They have no policy. Because they don't have answers. They just have problems. And they want those problems to go on forever. They don't want to fix crime. They're not trying to make you safe. They're trying to make you obedient. They have no choice. They're not trying to feed you. They're trying to distract you, to blame it on someone else and something else that has nothing to do with it. Oh, you got to be worried about the climate. I'm worried about whether or not there's going to be enough food, period, in the world. The estimate is that food shortage, there will be 40% less crops in the world this fall. 40%. And you're telling me I have to be worried about whether or not the temperature is going to be a couple of degrees warmer or not? There's not going to be food. If you don't have any food, you're not going to make it through the year. I think the more immediate problem is whether or not you're going to have food or whether or not some criminal is going to try and steal your money and your food. I think those are the bigger issues. Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a crazy thing. Because maybe if the temperature was like 2 degrees warmer, cooler, then the criminals won't come out. They won't try and steal your food. They won't try and steal your money. They won't try and steal your cars. Is that the logic that we're hearing right now? Because that's, literally, this is coming out of the Biden-Harris administration. This is coming from Nancy Pelosi and John Kerry and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Cori Bush, Maxine Waters. They're telling you that, well, if the temperature was just 2 degrees less, criminals wouldn't be trying to take your stuff. Does that make sense to anyone at all? If it does, please explain it to me. Because I don't think whether the temperature is 2 degrees higher or lower, that a criminal cares. They don't care. I don't think that's such an alien thought. I think most people in America would agree with that. Mike Bowie mentions that Democrats see law-abiding citizens as a bigger threat to them than criminals, and they're acting like the very criminals that they are protecting. And we are seeing them protect them. Bail reform, which has been something that had been pushed for by progressives, saying, no, we have to let people out because of the color of their skin. We have to let people out because reasons, feelings. They committed murder. They're attempting to commit murder. I mean, really, this is someone that you want out on the streets, someone who's willing to kill someone just because? I mean, what if that guy gets another beer and decides to kill someone else? He's already willing to commit murder. He's a danger. The news media doesn't want to address that. He's a danger. We needed the federal government to step in because of the public outcry, because this was a sitting member of Congress. And if it wasn't, this guy would have been running around New York State, potentially a danger to anyone, just because Kathy Hochul says, well, I don't like them. And we're supposed to be terrified of yes, there's the viruses. I mean, do you hear? The biggest problem, we've been talking about monkeypox on this channel for 3-4 months that we've been talking about it since the very first, when it first started its outbreak in Europe, we've been talking about the monkeypox. And the newest thing that we're hearing about the monkeypox, there are 2 children in America, in California, that have been affected by the monkeypox. Do you know how they got the monkeypox? And I think this is important to understand. How did these kids get the monkeypox? And the answer to that, and I'm going to show it to you on the screen. According to the Daily Mail, U.S. records first two-child monkeypox cases. In California, toddler and an infant in D.C. were likely infected by household contacts, and both had contact with gay or bisexual men. Again, it comes down to, how do you protect yourself against the monkeypox? Can you take a new vaccination on top of the vaccinations you've already been getting? Or do you just control who gets to touch your body, who gets to touch your children? To be picky and choosy and say, no, not everybody gets to touch your body. This shouldn't be that hard, folks. This isn't that hard to figure out. And at the same time, we have polio is coming back. Polio. Because someone from another nation came into the United States, potentially illegally, and decided, they had polio. And are spreading it. We got rid of polio in 1979. Monkeypox has been isolated to the Congo since 1974. And we're supposed to have, so now you got to get a new polio vaccine. You got to get a new pandemic vaccine. Now you got to get another vaccine for the monkeypox. How's that all mixing in your body? I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical recommendations. I'm not even trying to do that. I'm just asking a question. Right now, we have the United States government and the WHO saying that you need to get a vaccination for the pandemic, for monkeypox, and for polio. How is that going to mix in your body? Has anyone considered that? I'm just saying. I'm just asking the question. Because the CDC isn't asking the question. The WHO isn't asking that question. I'm not telling you what the result is. I don't know. I'm asking the scientists, what is the answer? They're not answering. But we know that we're getting more and more people with mumps and measles and polio and monkeypox coming into this nation, and now polio. There's a problem here. Part of that problem, I think we can all say, is the open border. The border being open is part of that big problem. And yet the answer that we have is Kamala Harris is nowhere near the border, hasn't talked about the border, isn't doing anything about the border. And in fact, the major news media tells you that you are a racist because you mentioned the border. And the fact that 250,000 illegal aliens are crossing our border that we catch every month. God knows how many are coming in that we aren't catching, but we're catching 250,000 a month. And we're finding out that they have higher levels of all these diseases. And the answer from Democrats is, well, open up the borders more and take the doctors from our veterans at the Veteran Affairs and instead have them take care of these illegal aliens that have broken our law on purpose. Does that make sense to you? Is that a policy that sounds effective? That's going to, by allowing people with these sicknesses to come into America and to give them doctors free health care and let them stay in America, that's going to slow down other people who have those same diseases that are also starving, that want to have a better life, that they're going to say, well, they just healed that last person. You know what? I don't want to go to America anymore. Are you kidding me? And rather than thinking about this, they're telling you, no, don't consider that. That's not part of the election. You're a racist if you think that's part of the election. You should be concerned that this guy, this other candidate, voted for Trump. Because that's the problem. And you know what? This candidate Y, this other candidate, they're not concerned about climate change. That's not the number one issue in their mind. Those are bad guys. But it's perfectly okay to have hundreds of thousands of people who are potentially infected with various diseases because their countries don't have the proper medication to walk through our doors to get your money to live in our nation just because they broke the law. That's okay. You shouldn't consider that. That's not a problem at all. That's okay. And if you disagree, well, then you're a racist. Is this really what we're talking about in America? Is this what this is what the 2022 election is about? And no one's being honest to be able to say this. This is what the election is about. Why can't we be honest with each other and have that conversation? Why is it that the news media says you can't say that? Why not? Why can't I say that the best defense against the monkeypox is to be choosy about who you allow to touch your body? To maybe be a little pickier about who you have sex with. That would be the most effective and most immediate deterrent towards this spreading. Period. Why is that such a crazy idea as opposed to jab you with another injection? Let's mix some more stuff into your body. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you medical advice. I'm talking about politics. And I'm talking about Occam's razor. The simplest answer is the most obvious answer more often than not. It is simple to resolve this. Don't have random sex with people you don't know and look at their bodies. It's a big preventative measure. Why can't we have that conversation in America? No, you can't say that. Really? It terrifies me, folks. And people are telling me, and they're telling you, the best way to make your life safe is to completely disarm you. You can't wear a bulletproof vest. You can't have a firearm. You must trust in the government, as the government is saying that they got to get rid of the police. This is going to make you safe. Really? I don't think so. Great example, Indiana. Let's go to Indiana. In Indiana, I think everyone knows this story. In Indiana, there was a attempted mass shooting. Guy comes out the bathroom. He starts firing off. And another guy, 40 feet away, pulls out his concealed carry firearm, shoots the shooter in 15 seconds, saves dozens of lives, just like the Obama administration study promised us it would. That being concealed carry, Americans having the ability to defend themselves will save lives, 500,000 lives. Indiana is an example. The Indiana Mall is an example of those 500,000 lives being saved. And the answer that we are hearing from Democrats is, well, that was a gun-free zone. No one should have had a gun. Well, who cares what they should have? They did. One guy, a bad guy, had a gun there, didn't care about the gun-free zone, and planned to do some very bad things. A good guy didn't care about the law, and thank God he didn't, because he saved dozens of lives. And yet, we're hearing from Democrats telling us, well, you're just a bad guy. You're just evil. Because you want to own a gun. How dare you? That's not fair. We've got news media telling us, well, that doesn't really work that much. Do you know that the news media is actually trying to push that message? I want to show you this. Where is it? Here it is. I want to show you this, guys. Because it's not just me. Where is it? There it is. So this is the news media. Now this is coming from, this is my local newspaper. One of my new local stations, Binghamton homepage, WBNG. And they're saying, how often does a good guy with a gun end an attack? Okay, this is being spread by Nexstar Media Wire. So you look at this and you say, okay, there is the Texas State University is saying that only about 16% of the time do civilians stop mass shootings. Here's the thing. Why take away those 16%? It's literally, here's my question to you. Okay, 16% of mass shootings are stopped by a regular American citizen with a gun. And the answer from the Democrats are take away that gun from the citizen. That doesn't stop the mass shootings. It takes away 16% of the protection that you and I have. That's what they are saying. That's what the gun ban is about. That's what the censorship is about. We're going to take away the 16% of people who are protecting you. Their answer is, well, the police are going to save you more time. I don't care if the police save us 67% of the time. 16% of the time, the person standing next to me saved my life. And you want me to not have that safety anymore. I can't wear a bulletproof vest. I can't have a firearm. You want me defenseless, which means 16% more people will die. Does this not make sense to you folks? Am I somehow misunderstanding the consequence of what they are telling us we need to have? That's what Kathy Hochul's saying in New York. That's what Greg Newsom and Governor Newsom in California, Whitmer in Michigan, and in the Congress right now, HR 1808, that's what they're saying. They want you to be less safe, and they want to see more people die so that they can take away your rights even more. If that isn't fear-mongering in the worst sense, I don't know what is, and it doesn't make any sense. If there is anyone who is on the left or disagrees with me, please call in 607-242-1582. Let me say it slower. 607-242-1582. If you think I am wrong, if you think taking away the 16% of people who are protecting the public from mass shootings is a good idea, that you think it will somehow save lives, please call in and explain that logic to me. Please. I'm desperate to hear the answer because it doesn't make any sense. And I have never heard anyone explain this. And the problem is, no one will ask our news media to explain their position. No one's willing to ask them to tell us this. Instead, what we are hearing is, if you disagree, members of Congress are saying they're going to pass HR 2584. Now, you may say, well, what is HR 2584? HR 2584 is court packing. The very same thing we asked about in 2020, that Joe Biden, no one would tell us about, that they would pack the court, adding 4 Supreme Court justices. They want to add 4 more, something that America has been against since the 1940s. 72% of Americans say, no, this is a terrible idea. No one has ever wanted to do this. Under every type of president you can think of, no one has ever said this is a good idea. No one wants to do this. Democrats want to do this because it will give them more power, so that they can then turn around and say, oh, and we are going to ban your guns. We're going to destroy the Second Amendment. We're going to leave you less safe. We're going to leave the borders wide open. And if you complain about it on social media, well, you're a criminal. We're going to deperson you, and we're going to have the federal government investigate you like Attorney General Merrick Garland is doing to parents across America. Or have I misunderstood that? Yes, Klaus. In Arizona, people can walk around all day with a firearm on your hip, and it's no big deal. There's more people who die because of mass shootings, or gun crime, gun violence in New York State than in Arizona. People walk around all day in Arizona with a firearm on their hip. That's a fact. Same thing in Texas as well. But New York State has all the gun restrictions. And I'm not even going to Chicago. Won't even mention Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore. I'm not even going to mention those states. I'm not going to mention LA. Forget that. Just looking at the comparison of Arizona. It's insane, folks. And yet, no one in the media will talk about this. And you should be wondering why. You got to ask yourself, why? Tina says, in every business, especially in New York State, should be putting up a sign stating lawful concealed carry allowed on these premises. No, Tina, I disagree. And let me explain why I disagree. Businesses across the country that don't want someone to have a concealed carry should put up a sign that concealed carry is not allowed. See, you don't have to affirm a right you have. You need to affirm a right that is denied. If you are not giving someone permission, you don't have to tell people you can breathe in my store. You would have to tell people don't breathe in my store. You can't. You have to tell people you have to wear a mask in my store. Why? Because you're restricting their freedoms. You have to tell people, oh, you will not be served unless you have a shirt and shoes. Again, you have to define if you are taking away someone's right, because you have the right to walk into any store without shoes on, unless they're telling you you don't have that right. So you automatically, by the Constitution, by the amendments, you have the right to walk into any business concealed carry, unless that business tells you explicitly that you can't. And that's the problem with the law in New York State. That's the problem with the way that Democrats want us to think. They think you have to be given permission to exercise the rights that you already have. I disagree. Okay, yes, breathing, user has been banned, is taking fun at me because breathing is not the best example. Okay, fine. That's why I went on to, talk about shoes and shirts. This is live, folks. It's not scripted, so not always going to give you the best example of the thought that I'm trying to make here. I'm working on it. I'm trying. And I know the problem, Tina, is that in New York State, businesses have to do, and this is why it's an illegal law, because the law is saying that you have to give permission to exercise a right you already have. It's an illegal law. And that's the problem. You already have that right. You cannot you cannot make a law that says I have to affirm a right to be able to exercise it, that I need someone else to give me permission to have my rights. I have the right to walk outside. I have the right to walk with or without shoes. I have the right to life, liberty, and happiness. I do not need to ask a business or New York State government or the United States government to be able to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I do not need to ask for that permission. And New York State and California, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, the list goes on. They're all telling you that you need to ask permission to live your life. That is a problem. That is a dictatorship. That is authoritarian, or if you want, fascist. And we need to call that out. Yes, Tina, and I know you know it. And again, I'm not picking on you, Tina, but I'm using the point to I want to make sure everyone who's watching sees what I'm talking about and has the conversation. Not everyone's as familiar with these things as you and I are, or some of the people on the show. And I hope people clip this out, send it to your friends and say, yeah, why is it that we have progressives and Democrats that are telling us, these leadership, they're telling you, you need permission to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have to ask them for permission to be able to exercise your rights. Why are they doing that? Isn't that fascist? Isn't that a dictatorship? Who gave them that power? Because there surely was not a vote. I guarantee you, there was not a vote on this. I mean, if they really wanted to, because I guarantee you, if they decided to have a vote and be honest, and the Democrats said, you need permission to live, to have the right to exercise your right of life, liberty, and happiness, Democrats would lose overwhelmingly. It'd be one of the first times that we see on a national level that 90% of the country would all agree you're out of your mind. But that's why they won't do it that way. Why they'll be disingenuous, why they will be deceptive. And that is a problem. And no one in the news media is willing to ask this question or to call them out. Why is it so hard? I'm not the most brilliant man in the world. I'm not. I don't have 10,000 people working for me. ABC News, NBC, MSNBC, CNN have 10,000 people. The New York Times has thousands of people who work for them. I am sure at least one of their employees somewhere in those companies has the same idea and could ask the same question. And they don't. Why not? You mean to tell me that every single person in MSNBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, and the New York Times, the Washington Post, that they all 100% believe that you need to ask for permission to exercise your rights? Really? Because I don't think so. So why won't they ask the question? I know why Kathy Hochul won't answer the question. I know why Governor Newsom, Whitmer, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cori Bush, there's a long list, Adam Schiff. I understand why they won't answer the question, but I don't understand why the news media won't ask. I don't understand why the public isn't going up to these candidates and asking. And I would say ask Republicans too. Ask libertarians too. Ask whatever candidates in front of you and ask them, do you believe that I need to ask permission to exercise my right to life, liberty, and happiness? And if they say, no, of course not, then why do you control my right to the Second Amendment? Why are you trying to control my right to the First Amendment, to free speech? Trying to take away and censor what I can say on social media and in public places. Why are you trying to censor me? If they answer you, yes, you have the right, free and clear, to live life, liberty, and happiness, then why are they trying to censor what you can say, censor what you can think, trying to force and shove CRT, critical race theory, intersectionality, feminism, fifth wave feminism down your throat against your will, and take away your Second Amendment right, your right to defend yourself passively with bulletproof vests and actively with the ownership of a firearm? Why are they doing that? You can't do both things. They are mutually exclusive. If you think I am wrong, if you think I have misunderstood that, please call in 607-242-1582. Tell me how I got it wrong. If you think that you only have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness if someone else approves, please call into 607-242-1582. If you think the argument isn't what I have just described, call in. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me how censorship on the internet, censorship in your life, censorship in our schools, and denying people the ability to defend themselves and their families and their property. If you think that I've completely missed it, explain to me how I'm wrong. Because I know while the other mainstream media may be terrified to ask that question, I'm not. And I'm more than happy to ask that of Republicans, of Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, of the Green Party, who are communists, the Democratic Socialists of America, the Democratic Party. I'll ask them all. And we should. And we should hold them accountable to their answer. Because if they cannot answer that, if they will not answer that, they don't deserve to be elected. That's the way I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And I really would love to hear somebody call in and tell me, what do you think? Do you think that? Do you agree with that? Matter of fact, I'm going to type that out right now. Just so it's typed out for people. Hang on a second. I'm just typing away here because I'm a slow typer. Can't help it. I just don't type that fast. There we go. So that everyone can have it. It's in writing forever. So, I mean, these are some of the things that are upsetting me. And I think about this because we see that taking place around the world. Because we have leaders that America is trying to work with. And we're trying to convince them to tell their people that they don't have that right. This is what we're exporting. When we export critical race theory, when we export intersectionality and feminism, fifth wave feminism, we are trying to export the idea that the public around the world, the people in the world, do not have a right to life, liberty, and happiness unless the governments of the world approve. That's what I truly believe. And we are seeing it happen. We're seeing it in Germany. We're seeing it in France. We're seeing it in the United Kingdom. We're definitely seeing it in Canada and Australia and New Zealand. I mean, in those countries, and in Canada, if you say the wrong word, in fact, in the United Kingdom as well, if you say the wrong word, you will be fined $50,000. You will be thrown in jail for saying a word someone else didn't like. Because your right to free speech, your right to explain your thoughts are only available to you if someone else approves. If the government has already approved whatever it is you're going to say. And they are trying to do that here in the United States now. Do you know that you can't say groomer on Reddit or on Twitter? That word is banned. That word is banned. Now, mind you, you could have a different context. There's different context to the word. The word is banned. Did you know that you cannot on Reddit or on Twitter, you can't say the word groomer? Why? Because maybe it's appropriate. Maybe it's accurate. Maybe it is a complete description of what you are trying to say to another person about an issue. That it is your feeling or you are describing a situation. And is that bad? Ezra Miller. I don't usually talk about celebrities, but Ezra Miller, the guy who plays the Flash for the DCEU, the DC movies, the guy who plays the Flash, he apparently is a maniac. He attacks women, and he seems to have groomed children that he later stole. A 12-year-old. There seems to be 2 children. He's not in the news media because they let this story go. Because Ezra Miller happens to be LGBTQAI plus whatever. And so they can't talk about him. And now you can't say on Twitter, you can't refer to him on Twitter as a groomer, although he has been alleged in court. There is a pending court case about whether or not he was attempting to groom a child to take them away from the family. Why can't you use the word that describes the crime that he did, allegedly? Does that make sense to people? And I don't care if you like Ezra Miller or you don't like Ezra Miller. I could care less about Ezra Miller as a human being. I don't know him and I don't care about him. What I do care about is the fact that I should be able to describe his actions as accurately as possible. And if that happens to entail the word groomer, then that's part of it. Has nothing to do with the LGBTQAI plus in general. I'm speaking about a specific case. I'm speaking about a specific person and allegations that have been labeled against him in a court of law. But you don't get to have that freedom anymore. Why not? Why is it the media doesn't want to talk about these things? Why are we not talking about Alec Baldwin? Why is he still free? How is that man not in jail for committing murder? Why is Jussie Smollett walking around outside of jail? He was convicted. Okay, let's get it straight. Jussie Smollett is a criminal. It's not even a question. It's not a supposition. He was found guilty in a court of law. Evidence was provided. He made his defense. He failed. He was found by his peers to be guilty. He went to jail. And because of feelings, they let him out. Do you think they're going to let you out of jail because of feelings? Because I know they won't let me out of jail for feelings. What is going on? Yeah, you can use emojis. But I mean, we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to. If someone doesn't like the speech, don't listen. That's it. It's that simple. I remember when I was a kid, back in the 70s and 80s. Oh, I don't like that. Turn the channel. Oh, I don't like that radio. I don't like that radio station. I don't like that song. I don't like what they're saying on talk radio. Change the channel. Well, we have over 500 channels. Change the channel. This isn't that hard. You don't like people. Over 1 million people didn't like what Netflix was doing. They canceled their subscription. This isn't that hard. You don't need to. What kind of a snowflake are we trying to protect by saying, well, you can't say things, you can't do things, you can't exercise your right to life, liberty, and freedom? What is going on? And how does that snowflake that is offended by the word groomer, that is offended by me concealed carrying or having the ability to passively save myself or defend myself with a bulletproof vest, why is that person more important than me? We should be equal. Right? Isn't that the whole idea? Aren't we supposed to be equal? Then why are you raising up these groups of people as opposed to anyone else? Why are they more important than everyone else? Martin Luther King was looking for equality. He wasn't looking for superiority. There's a big difference there. It's not even close. It's not like, ooh, semantic. No, there's a big difference here. And User Has Been Banned says that the point is to get the normies mad. If we get the word grape banned, for example, grape bans, we'll lose it and wine is made from grapes. Yes, I get it. It's about control. I understand. This is all about control. I understand that completely. But I'm telling you, fight it. Because if you don't fight someone taking control of your life, you don't get your life back. They don't just give it up. When was the last time the United States government ever reversed its position about a law or a department or an agency? Yes, there is the Disinformation Governance Board. Yes, except it's still there. They didn't get rid of it. It's still on pause. It still exists. They are reworking it. They are going to go back to it if they have not already. They didn't stop it. They put it on pause. In other words, they stopped talking to you about it. They stopped telling the public about what the government is doing to silence you. And they have encouraged other companies to do the work for them. That's why we're seeing other companies that are coming out and creating their own disinformation governance boards. They just shifted it to another group of people that you have less control over. And in fact, you can't demand private businesses provide that information like you can the United States government. But the government never stopped doing it. Come on, folks. It's so frustrating to me. It really is. And I know that many who are watching this program, you get it. That's why I ask many a time, please like, share, and subscribe. We want to reach 1,234 people. 1,234 people of whatever beliefs you have. I don't care if you're a Democrat or progressive or a Republican or libertarian. I don't care. We're just looking to get to 1,234 people to hear from more people telling us what they think. Because maybe we got it wrong. Maybe you should have. Maybe you should only have the rights that someone else allows you to have. I know in other countries, in Australia, in Canada, even in the United Kingdom, you don't get those rights. I mean, absolutely, you don't have those. You don't have a right to anything in China. or in North Korea, and throughout the entire Middle East. But, maybe that should be the way it should be in America. I don't think so. I think that's wrong. But I want to hear what other people think. I don't think, what's the privilege? I live in America. I live in a first world nation. I live with the absolute right to free speech and to defend myself. That's what it's supposed to be. And those are what most people around the world would call a privilege because they don't live in America. It's not a privilege. It is life. That is the right to life. But in other parts of the world, I understand why they would say, no, it's a privilege because they can't do it. But in America, that is a guarantee. That is the foundation. That is the bedrock. That is an absolute. We have that right no matter what. Or at least we're supposed to. We're supposed to. Rights can't be taken away. Privileges are granted. And that's why they want people to think of, well, you are just privileged. You know what? It's not a privilege to be an American. It is a right. It is a birthright. It cannot be taken away. And so that I agree. That's why they try and tell you it's a privilege. Well, it's a privilege. You have a privilege to be able to own a gun and go out hunting. No, I have a right to defend myself, period. If I choose to go out hunting, that's secondary. I have a right to be able to say what I think. You have a right to not listen. These are universal. And we are looking at, they are actively trying to take that away from you. That's what HR 2584 is about. That is exactly what they're trying to do. Something that they promised you in 2020 that they would not do. Now it's a threat. Now it's being used as a cudgel. You're going to do what we say or we're just going to pack the courts. Really? Sorry, that's a threat. That's coercion. No, you don't get to do that either. Doesn't work that way. Or at least it shouldn't work that way. Okay, folks. So we're just about on 3 hours. We got 9 minutes. And I want to hear if someone else has anything that I've talked about today. 607-242-1582. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I've misunderstood something? Have I not been clear in something? Do you think Kathy Hochul is absolutely justified in sending her attack dog against political enemies? And if it's okay for Kathy Hochul to do it, if it's okay for Maxine Waters to do it, and we're seeing it's getting worse and worse as we go. When Nancy Pelosi said it, then Maxine Waters said it, and that led to shootings. Then we see that, and I'm jumping ahead, but then we're hearing Kathy Hochul say it, and someone's trying to commit an assassination. What happens when the next person says? What about when Governor Whitmer decides that she wants to send out her supporters, for lack of a better word, to go after her political enemies? What happens then? What about the next time that we hear Nancy Pelosi or Cori Bush or Ilhan Omar, and they decide, hey, you know what? You should go after a Supreme Court justice, and they kill them. If we don't stop this kind of stuff now, it's going to continue. They're not stopping. They're not even trying to admit that they did something wrong. They're not even questioning it. They are moving on and saying, well, no. Don't worry about what I did because that person's bad. That was a bad person, which is exactly what Antonio Delgado is doing right now. That is exactly what Kathy Hochul is doing right now. As the political article I showed you just told us, they are attacking Lee Zeldin, the victim, for the crime they initiated, that they instigated. There's no other place where you would see this be. Imagine if this was something. They often said that this is the problem with rape trials, where they blame the victim. It's the same thing here. They're blaming Lee Zeldin for something that they did, that they helped create, that they incited. Justice Dankula, oh, Count Dankula, that's funny. That's funny. So, I mean, maybe, but if you think I'm wrong, I mean, I'm not above being wrong. I'm not above hearing someone else's opinion. I'm not above having that discussion. I'm thick-skinned. Go for it. You think I'm wrong? I'm willing to hear it. Tell me how this doesn't make sense. Tell me how this is in your best interest. Whether it's gun control, tell me how having less people like the hero in Indiana, having less of them is going to make you safe. Please explain that to me. I don't understand. I do not understand. I ask any Democrat, I ask the Young Turks, they watch this program. Yes, the Young Turks do watch us and they attack me because I'm a smoker. Okay, whatever. Young Turks, please explain to me. How does having less people like the gentleman in Indiana, like the pregnant mom in Florida, like so many cases, 500,000 times a year that the Obama administration was able to find, tell me, having 500,000 less people protecting themselves, how does that make you safer? Depending on oil from other countries, how does that make our energy prices go down? Selling China our oil instead of using it here in America, how does that make energy less expensive in America? Not having a plan for the food shortage that the White House itself has told us will happen, as we are watching countries like Sri Lanka, like Eritrea, like Panama have riots over food and governments have been toppled, not having a plan. Tell me, how does that make me able to get food? How does that help stabilize America? See, the silence that we're hearing is the same silence that we hear from the news media who won't ask this question. Same silence is from the politicians who won't answer that question. They don't want you to think. They want you to obey. They don't want you to have to say, well, that doesn't make any sense. They want you just to do what they say. Because if you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. If you ask that question, they don't have an answer because it doesn't help you at all. It does help them. It helps the political elites who have been elected. It helps keep them in power. It helps keep you in fear. It helps keep you dependent on them to provide for you, but it doesn't help you. It never will help you, and it's not supposed to, which is why they don't want you to ask the question. Because the second you realize it doesn't help you, well, then you're not going to vote for it. You're not going to support it. They lose their power. And I think it's well past time that they lose this power, that they lose the ability to be in government for 50 years at a time. But I don't know. Sorry, I'm just getting a message here. So who knows when people are going to, these are all problems we have to deal with. So the comments from Mike Bowie is the Constitution is meant to defend us from this government. Everything they are doing is in direct assault on our Constitution. That is true. User has been banned says it makes criminals safe. So I can only conclude they are taking away the gun rights of the law-abiding store owner lets the armed robber be safer. The police show up after the fact and catch and release. And none of that makes us safe. I agree. And why won't the news media say the same thing? Why won't the other political commentators who are at least as smart as I am, who have at least as much experience as I have? I've been doing it 15 years. There's a lot of them out there, my contemporaries, that have been out there for 15 years. We've all been reading the same news. We have all the same contacts. We have all the same evidence. Why won't they ask this question? Even if they don't agree with the answer that I come to, Why won't they ask the question that I am asking to be honest with you, the American public, and say, here's a definitive answer? Because they don't believe you're going to say the answer they want. That you're not going to answer with your feelings, you're going to answer with your mind. That you're going to think it through and realize this is not in your best advantage. I don't know. But I do know that we try every week to have this conversation with you. And we're always happy to have people call in to 607-242-1582 to share your thoughts. As you saw earlier today that we had John calling in, like we received the call from the eyewitness, Freedom Fox, who is an eyewitness not just to the attack on Lee Zeldin, but also the attack of Antifa in Manhattan just this weekend. Something the news media doesn't want to tell you about. We look at the bills and we look at the issues and we try and tell you what's going on. I can tell you, our ally in the United Kingdom is not served by having such weak politicians, rhinos, these individuals that are willing to capitulate just for the sake of power. It's not going to help us. It's not helping us around the world as is. It only makes it worse. And it doesn't help when the United States does not have respect, does not have leadership, and does not have a plan for issues that are definitely and demonstrably impacting the rest of the world. We have been telling you on this channel since January, prepare for higher prices in food. We weren't wrong. We told you there was going to be inflation. We weren't wrong. We told you inflation is going to be double digits. We're not wrong. We told you there's a recession, if not stagflation, happening. We're not wrong. We told you to buy extra food, 10% more every time you go out to the store. We're not wrong. I wish that we were. I wish that the world was better off. It's not. We're also telling you, ask your politicians, do they support your ability to have life? Do they support and believe that you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without asking for permission from someone else? And if they say yes, then ask them, then why do you support gun control? Why do you support abortion? Why do you support the government over the public? I wish and I pray that someone asks a politician that. I really do. I really, really do. But folks, we've been doing this for 3 hours. It is hot today. As you can tell, I'm sweating a little bit. It's hot. Don't have an air conditioner. I don't use an air conditioner. But we look forward to being able to speak with you. And of course, every Thursday we're on with the Rory Sauter Show. Every Friday we're on with the Liberty First Foundation Roundtable at 9 p.m. on Fridays. We do the the SNV 500 program that we're doing with Rory Sauter. That's normally on every Saturday. Every Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are here live with you, taking your phone calls, your tweets, and your chats from anywhere in the world to talk about these issues that are affecting everyone in the world, and especially here in the United States. And we look forward to you being part of our audience. We hope that you'll take an opportunity to like, to share, and most of all, to subscribe to help us get to 1,234 subscribers. It means a lot to us. We appreciate it. But most of all, I appreciate you, our audience, joining us for whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, to join us and be part of this discussion, because we think it's important and we think you are important. You're not a checkbox. You're an individual, and we value you as an individual. I want to thank you again for being here with us today. I look forward to speaking to you every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, I want you to be safe. I want you to be well. Go out, get a firearm, get trained, and protect yourself, because the government sure isn't. I thank you. I'll talk to you soon.